young men speaking in the city square, trying to tell somebody that he cares. Can you blame the voice of youth for asking what is true? Yeah, the ones that you're calling wild are gonna be the leaders in a little while. When will the lonely voice of youth cry, what is true? This our world's waking to a newborn babe, and I solemnly swear it'll be their way. You better help that voice of youth find what is true. And the lonely voice of youth cries, what is true?
All right. Welcome everybody. It's nice to have everybody here. And special treats all around. You may notice the board. I managed to do some drawy thing by myself with Sally Joe's excellent encouragement, of course, because it was a fight. It's like, you want me to do what? We'll get to the board reference in a minute, but I just wanted to highlight that I can almost sort of kind of draw something with a lot of help from the internet. We got our Sam Pal, because duh, you're not alive if you don't drink Sam Pal. We'll get our Junkless. I love these cinnamon roll. It's just fantastic. Cinnamon is like magic. Then I've got some Bear Claw tea from the Table Rock Tea Company. So it's quite good. It's quite good. So yeah, I don't know if anybody's seen the. See, I can't even think about it. The silliness around men thinking about Rome every day, but this has been this wildfire viral meme going around. My favorite version of this was Richard Rowland on Twitter said, "If you count Constantinople, then yes." That I think of Rome every day. It's just like, and he's an ortho bro, right? He's an Orthodox. So yeah, I thought that was just absolutely brilliant. Yeah, and I just, the birds aren't real thing got me, but I think this is better. I think the whole like men think of Rome every day is better. And there have been some funny stories around it already. So I figured, why do we do anything? Rome. That's why. There's your answer. We're done. This stream is done. It's over. I couldn't even resist. Plus, I got the opportunity to actually draw something. I'm glad that it looks awesome. It's pretty good for a last minute. What am I gonna do? Oh my goodness, I can't draw. But in fact, if I'm given the right kind of instructions on the interwebs, I can almost pull something off. So, Anselman, that is extremely weird that you would ask this particular question. Didn't Moscow succeed Constantinople? That was actually what Manuel was saying. And I was pushing back on that. I'm not saying no, but I was pushing back on that because Moscow, to my knowledge, was not actually the political capital back then anyway. That's a recent capital. Moscow came after St. Petersburg. St. Petersburg is a really late capital. We could make other sort of cultural whatever arguments, which would be interesting. But yeah, Emmanuel was on that the other day, and I don't know. I was fighting back against that a little bit. I talked to Adam about it. He was like, no. But interestingly, then we looked at Kiev. Also, no, by the way, Kiev fell before Constantinople. But that would have been interesting, right? Because then you get into what's the war in Ukraine, and blah, it's like, oh, that's not clear. But I would entertain Moscow being the continuation of Rome in some form. But yeah, we sort of decided on a probably no, and we left it there. Uh, but yeah, this whole like men think of Rome every day thing is just it's been too glorious not to capture. And yeah, I mean, look, one of the things I sort of learned today was we were looking around at how many YouTube channels have 1,000 subscribers. So this YouTube channel is in the top 10% of YouTube channels. Just saying. Congratulations, thank you, everybody. It's wonderful. It's a real privilege. I'm happy to do this. Somebody on Twitter today too said, I like your what did he call it? Your pirate thing or whatever. And I was like, oh, thank you. apparently, apparently this is well liked even on other platforms like Twitter. Um, so yeah. Uh, Hanselman just stirring it. Yes, you are indeed. It's funny that you would stir it in the same way that Manuel did. Kiev Rus seems to have been a pretty good society, if briefly. Yeah, well, and they did move to Moscow. Like, yeah, Moscow is definitely came after Kiev, so to some extent. Um, who knows? It's I'm gonna look into it at some point. But hey, let's jump into this. Why do we do anything? I mean, that's really the topic here. I think it's a good topic, and I managed to get a whole page of notes, which sort of surprised me. I'm like, there's a page of notes here. Not quite. They're a little more sparse than past ones. Not as sparse as the last live stream though, which went rather well. So let's think about it. Why do we do anything at all? Like, what's other than Rome for the guys? What's the deal? What's driving us, right? And we've talked about discernment, judgment, action, right? We talked about that in a previous live stream, but that's the how, right? That's not the why. That's the how. Why we have discernment, why we make the judgments we make, why we take the actions we take. Those are all why questions. They fit nicely within the framework there, but they don't really answer the question. The why questions are sort of wide open. So what is the why? What is the why? And look, I mean, you might believe that people do things for money, right? That's the economic frame. You might believe that they do things for power, and that's sort of the postmodern top-down power from above, which is the worst definition of power of all time, by the way, just in case you were curious. That's more the political frame, or that's probably the closest frame that people put things in. Also wrong, right? Perhaps we think that people do things out of fear, right? Or based on their illusion, right? Based on a fantasy, or perhaps because they were told to do it and they don't have anything better to do. And no, that's all wrong. Does that shock you? Good. Let's continue. Notice quickly that almost everybody thinks that other people have those sort of base, banal, average motivations. When you think about other people, you think, oh, that's the motivation of the president, or that's the motivation of this person for doing something, right? You always think that, right? But not yourself. People don't say, oh, that's my motivation. They never think they're subject to an economic or political frame or fear or whatever. They don't do that. You aren't motivated by money, power, fear, illusion, or what others tell you to do, right? But everyone else is. Is that how this works? Is that what you think? Because it certainly seems like people believe that, right? That's how they're acting. And like, did you notice your fantasy here? And look, I mean, we've talked about fantasy and illusion in a previous live stream, right? And that's why, like, we're very much setting the stage to talk about sort of more sophisticated things by talking about sort of the base level things in the beginning of these live streams and my videos on navigating patterns, obviously. And it's an important topic, right? This idea of fantasy and where we end and things that aren't us begin, right? You have to have that boundary, that understanding. Uh, but what this boils down to, this outline that I've given you, is our motives are pure from our perspective, right? Except when we try to explain why we aren't doing the things that pure motives would imply, right? Would sort of indicate. Or in other words, why you aren't being rational. And we call this a rationalization, oddly enough. It's probably a there. And then suddenly you only stay at your job because you need the money. That's why you don't go off and get a better job or quit or go to school or do something else, right? Whatever it is. And that it's cute, huh? Isn't it? It's cute. And see how we kind of fool ourselves, right? And we all do it all the time. And we don't even notice it, right? And the thing is that anything, you know why you do that. You know why you make these political or economic or fear-based decisions for things, right? You know why. You've heard me say it before. Because you're a Muppet. I'm a Muppet. We're all Muppets. There's a why. We know not what rules us. We don't understand our motivations. We don't understand the things that make our motivations manifest. We don't understand why, when we manifest our motivations, they don't go the way we expect. And sometimes that's because we're stupid or incapable or just learning, right? But sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's because we get exactly what we secretly want and not what we say we want. And that goes for other people too. That's all nice and well and good for somebody to say, oh, I want a better job, but then they do nothing to get a better job. Explain why they do that. So you'll do that all the time. I want this. Oh, well, you could have that if you did this. And they don't change. Kind of mysterious. And you do that too. That's the interesting part. That's what we're talking about. Why do we do anything? What is driving the things that happen, that we make happen in many cases? Not all. You don't control the whole world or even a significant part of it. But a lot of things you do control to some great extent, and that just don't work out. And we don't know what's driving us. We don't know all the factors involved in why we do things and in how things manifest, despite what we rationalize ourselves to think that we want or to say that we're trying to get to or whatever. A lot of what we project out in the world, what we signal, is more about impressing a signal on other people rather than reflecting our own actual desires. And the problem is that we normally do not pay attention. That's why we don't know why. That's why we don't know what's going on. And I mean, I make a lot of claims based on people's actions as to what they want. And, that's not going to be 100% right, but it's mostly right. It's like 90% correct. A lot of people manifest exactly what they want. And when they manifest something bad, it's because they wanted something bad. Now, they may not have intended all the bad things that happened. That's a different problem. But if somebody doesn't want to get a new job and they don't, that's because they don't want to get a new job, right? They're not willing to take the trade-off. There's a video on navigating patterns you could check out. And that happens. Oh, Anselman, I'm sorry to hear you're not feeling well. I hope you get better. That Sam Pell will help you. So what is the thing that drives us? What is it that is the driver for the why that we do anything? Spirit. That's the thing. That ethereal. Not the material, the ethereal. Right? I'm not a materialist. Material does not drive the world. Sorry. Material is the thing that gets driven in the world. Totally different. What causes us then to do things? Well, if they're not necessarily rational, if they're not logical and reasonable, well, that's your unconscious. And yeah, we talked about that too. Why did we talk about that? So I could talk about this. Did I plan this out meticulously? No. But I did know which things to talk about first, and which things I had to lay groundwork for. And that's why we're here. The thing that is rational and logical and reasonable and consistent, those are conscious things. That's how we use consciousness. The idea of consciousness, that ridiculous scientific term for the soul, that because they don't want to use the term soul, that we call consciousness, is wrapped up in logic, reason, and rationality. And fair enough. I'm not denying that a frame. I still insist you're going to have a hard time defining it. So good luck to you if that's the frame you're using. And not saying it's not useful. I'm just saying there are limits there. But that doesn't drive us. You can just see that. People are doing irrational, illogical, unreasonable things all the time, constantly. And I've been over it before in my conspiracy videos. If you think the people in the White House in the United States right now are rational, logical, reasonable creatures who are acting on intent and are competent and able to act out what they want, then lizard people definitely run the White House. There's no other better explanation. It doesn't exist. Occam's razor says it's lizard people. For real. I don't think that's true. I don't think they're competent. I don't think they're logical, reasonable, and rational. But if those were your base assumptions, they're definitely lizard people. Those aren't my base assumptions. I've been around too long. I've seen too many businesses do stupid things. I've seen too many politicians do stupid things. I've watched too many obvious failures, right? Too many Titanics hitting too many icebergs, going, why did you hit that iceberg? So to know why we do a thing, we must attend to it. We must put our attention towards it. Not just the thing we do, but the things we're doing. And that's the thing. We have to attend to this. And how do I know this? Because, as Jonathan Peugeot says, the world is attention. That's what the world is. It's attention. And if we don't attend to the things we're doing, the things we have done, this is why things like journaling work, or Jordan Peterson's writing programs, right? His past authoring, present authoring, and future authoring programs. This is how they work. You start attending to the past, the present, the future. You write it down. You get it closer to manifestation. Then you can wrestle with those ideas better. Now, there's a limit to that. But it takes advantage of our power, which is our time, energy, and attention. T. That's our power. It's all about the T. And writing things down helps us to get closer to that so that we can wrestle with our ideas. First, we can work them out in our head. Then we can manifest them on paper, theoretically sharing them with other people, at least in theory, right? This is all very important. And then once we've done that, we've attended to it. And having attended to it, we can put more time and energy and attention towards it. And then we can be more deliberate about our action. That's why these gurus on goals work. Having goals works because in order to have a goal, you have to pay attention. You have to attend to why you're doing things, to what you're doing. And that's super important. You have to pay attention in order to know why you're doing things, in order to know what's moving you. Doesn't mean you're necessarily going to get any better control over it, by the way. This is where stoicism comes in handy. But if you really want to know why somebody did something, we can start with you, why you did something. Connect it to a virtue or a vice. And I'll just propose this. Virtues sort of reciprocally open up, to use some nice, neat Vervaeke language. And vices reciprocally narrow or close in. They build closed worlds. And those closed worlds, even if the world doesn't get smaller, eventually you reach the end of it. And then it feels smaller. So the material fact of whether or not it shrinks is irrelevant. You certainly shrink in with it. That's what addiction is, right? That's Mark Lewis's work. So the vice closes you in. The virtue gets you looking up and out and spreads you out in potential. And it's all about potential. A negative potential will drive you away from things, right? You'll identify against, and you shouldn't identify against. My good friend Manuel is all about don't identify against. He's right. What you want to do is go for a virtue. And the thing is, people think, oh, well, vices are scary and virtues are not. No, I mean, virtues are scary too. You want to be courageous? You might die. You want justice? They might make you drink hemlock for that. And these are not straightforward solutions. I'm not here to give you answers. I'm here to point you at the important things to think about. That's what we're doing. Hopefully successfully. And I want you to notice that effectively what people are doing, you included, are using umbrella frames, these big frames, to hide your true motivation, your true why. How interesting is that? We all do it. And we can go back and fix that later with rationality. We can rationalize our behavior after the fact. That's easy to do. We do it all the time. In fact, perhaps, and I've suspected this for years and years, that rationality, all rationality, is post hoc. It's after the fact. It's an explanation for a thing that you didn't fully understand that you did at the time. And you go, well, the reason why I did that was, right? And I'm not saying you can't rationalize your future behavior. Well, I'm going to quit my job because my boss is a jerk. And then quit your job. But I am saying that you're rationalizing your behavior. And maybe that's hiding the true motivation. Maybe you're upset at your boss because he makes more money than you and he's a moron. And you think smart people should make more money. And it's like, well, first of all, that's not evident. Second of all, are you sure you're not just upset at success? It's the problem we all have, is that we want the world the way we want it. And when it doesn't go that way, we think we're being treated unfairly. But are we? Or are we just upset that the world doesn't work the way it's supposed to work according to what's in our head? Because that seems more likely. And so we use these umbrella frames. And again, that certainly happens with things that we aren't participating in, that we aren't involved in. Why did all those people vote for that political candidate? No, because they promised them stuff. The politician promised them stuff. That's why they did it. Oh, no, no. Or is it because they're afraid of losing their welfare benefits? Or is it because they're afraid of the change that will happen if they vote for a candidate from the opposite party in their minds? Whatever that means. Political framing is the worst. The worst. And notice that there are multiple valid, often equally valid descriptions, rationalizations of how something came to be. Why did they vote that way? Why did this person swerve? What was that person thinking when they ran the red light? Well, why did they cancel this project at work? Why did they change my job description? Why did that CEO change the name of the company? What was he thinking? Oh, well, he's smart. He knows what he's doing. It was the most genius move ever. Because, really? And what about yourself? Why didn't you get a better job? Why didn't you start a YouTube channel? Why didn't you write your Substack stuff yet? I don't know. I haven't attended to it. Have you? This is why attention's important. Where we put it is important. And yeah, look, let's give ourselves some credit. Let's give rationality its due. We can rationally move our attention. We can. It's not the only thing that moves our attention, and it's not as reliable and consistent as we would like. Welcome to life. Welcome to the created order, such as it is. It's a problem or a perennial pattern. A term which I've noticed has been picked up in certain circles. Mysteriously, no doubt. And these are the patterns we're struggling with. And that's why we need to pay attention to the patterns, right? Because we're not just slaves to the pattern, we interact with the pattern. And what that means is that we need to navigate the pattern. Convenient shill for the name of the channel, I guess, but also, speaking of convenient shills for the name of the channel, I know Manuel went on Paul Vanderklay's channel a while back and hadn't gotten his chance yet. And Vanderklay was sort of chiding him and, of course, wanted to go after me and said, oh, what do you think of that channel name, Navigating Patterns? Huh? And he was sort of derisive. And Manuel said, I came up with that, which, of course, he did. So, yeah, I mean, look, this is distributed cognition at its best. These live streams are not done in a vacuum. This is not a bubble. There's a lot of interaction on the Discord server, in tweets, in emails, right? In talking to people in real life. There are real people out there, apparently. Terrible things sometimes. Did you know that people cause all the problems? Think about it. Why? Why? And why did you do that? Was it a sense of duty? Honor? Were you defending the truth? Were you afraid of consequences if you didn't do it? Fear of the unknown? Worried about the cost? Oh, I don't want to say that. I might get canceled. Too risky? Notice that the emotion is a driver. It's not the only driver. You can override your emotions to some extent with rationality. I mean, that's part of Stoicism to a large degree. But emotion is a driver, but emotion isn't a driver towards a goal. Emotion will result in random behavior and not towards a telos at all. It's a function of moving away. Not that this isn't useful, but it's not a why. It's a why not. And that thing that I like to talk about that I think people don't talk about is this idea of exploration. So if you want to compress the world down, as people often do, into this, we move away from pain and towards pleasure, nonsense. It's garbage. It like one of the most debunked ridiculous things in psychology or sociology or whatever bucket they're putting it in this week because they're all stupid. It's total foolishness. But if you want to use a frame like that, I just object to the binary nature, right? And so we have to have a third mode, which is exploration. But exploration is dangerous. But also, that's how you find the gold. 99.9% of the time, you find nothing, and then bang, you find the gold. You need exploration. It's our third thing. We're not just moving away from pain and towards pleasure. We're also exploring. Right? And that is sponsored by Rome. Exploration, sponsored by Rome. And there's no badness in the negative case. Like, we need to know the negatives to survive. If you try to train people with positive only feedback, this has been done. Look up B.F. Skinner. B.F. Skinner did some wonderful work. And then this one thing he did that was total garbage. And to be fair, he couldn't prove it because it doesn't work. His son tried too. Positive only reinforcement doesn't work. We need negative reinforcement. We should respond more strongly to negative reinforcement than positive reinforcement. Of course, unless you think all the parts of evolutionary theory are actually wrong, because they are unworkable without negative feedback. Unworkable. All of it fails instantly. It's a little thing you learn if you pay attention to the right things, which I'm not claiming is easy, but can be done. That's part of the why. A lot of the why is not taking a risk. A lot of the why of things you do and don't do is avoidance of dangerous things. But you also avoid the gold. You also avoid the wonder, the beauty. You avoid the virtues. And there's temperance, for sure. But the negative case should not be your primary motivation. And how do you know? You have to pay attention. The world is attention. You have to think about why you did things. You have to think about them in terms of virtues and vices. You have to navigate those values. You have to look at the patterns that either you're stuck in or other people are stuck in. You have to do that if you want to know why. And not just why for you, which is great. You should know why you're doing things, but why for others. And you shouldn't presume that the why for others isn't also the why for you. Because, man, we have a lot of things in common, and they're not the things, we'll say, the progressives, the wokeists, the crazy leftists will tell you we have in common. That there is an equality in the world. It's just not on the material side. The equality in the world is what patterns we play out. That's why we have to navigate the patterns. We're stuck with them. And if we try to reject them, we will destroy the world and ourselves. Probably ourselves first. Which, would be horrible because we need you in the world. Being is good. It's not hard. We can't rely on emergence. Why? Oh, because this thing popped up. Oh yeah, this new cryptocurrency popped up. That's why I bought it. Really? And maybe it is, but really? How many people lost money on all the billions of cryptocurrencies that popped up because they thought emergence is good? Oh, new cryptocurrency. I'll buy some. And of course, they all didn't do poorly, but and look, your primary motivation can't be this happy-go-lucky sort of, oh, we'll just wait to see what emerges and find out. We'll figure it out along the way. We don't have to think about the future. And you've met those people, right? The hippies, the free spirits, the happy-go-lucky. These are standard expressions of a well-known archetype that most people experience in their lives or bump into, right? And there are lots of people that aren't particularly motivated in a particular direction, but they're just looking for a group, for a tribe, whatever. Tribalism is real to some extent. It's not the motivating factor for most things in the world, but it's a factor. And there are some people for whom tribalism is the motivating factor, and that might be a much larger percentage of the population than you suspect. I'm not making a claim. I'm just saying, look around. How would you know you got to attend? When people are doing things and they don't know why, and you can find out, right? They can't rationalize it. And they can't just say, oh, I can't rationalize it, but I'm doing it, which is totally valid. Like, oh, I feel this way about it. Fair enough. I'm not going to deny your lived experience. If that's what you say, that's fine. But also, are you sure? Are they sure? If they're defending something rationally and they can't, which is most people, they're go along to get along people. Their emergence is good. They're middle out thinkers. They're, it doesn't really matter. I just need a tribe. They're tribalists. They don't know it. They're looking at the good side of tribalism. Oh, it's protecting me. I have friends. Whatever. Fair enough. But they don't have a why. And look, figuring out the world is too hard. We're always outsourcing some of this stuff. Always outsourcing so many things. We don't know what we're outsourcing. We can't even tell. The world's so much bigger than you are. Look around you. What makes you think you can understand all of the stuff going on around you? You never know what's going on in your body. How fast are you breathing? Are you breathing shallow or deep? What are you breathing? Because I've got my little nebulizer going here. And yeah, I got spearmint and oregano oil for various reasons. Keep me awake. What happens when you pay attention to your breathing? Talk to Wim Hof. Great stuff. Why play tennis? Why watch a football game? Why play that particular video game? Why take a nap? Why are you eating that for dinner? Why indeed? Do you know? Do you really? Why do we think we know the motivations of others when we clearly don't know our own? Why do we do anything? Why? There is a why there. I'm not claiming it's random, but you're not paying attention to it. Otherwise, you're probably not watching the stream. You're going, oh, that's dumb. I know why. See, I wouldn't watch this stream. I'd be like, that's the dumbest topic ever, Mark. I actually do know why. Not everything, but enough to go, meh. Have you ever heard the phrase, they know me better than I know myself? Have you ever thought that? Oh, this person knows me better than I know myself. And it's just another example of something we're fully well aware of, but we never really consider. We don't consider the implications of a whopping statement like that. Wait a minute, there's a condition where somebody who's definitely not me knows something, some aspect of me, something about me better than I do. What does that tell you about your why? I'm not saying they know you perfectly better, but even just one thing. And what if there's three of those people and they all know a different one thing? What does that say about your knowledge of yourself? Some aspects of you cannot be seen by you. Obviously. Duh. That's should be a given. And yet, we don't take this concept seriously enough. We are flawed, incomplete creatures who cannot see ourselves as well as we think we can, or as well as we'd like, or perhaps as well as we need to survive on our own. Perhaps. Perhaps. There are implications here. It's not so much that we don't know ourselves and we can just put our minds to it and resolve that. The truth is, we cannot know ourselves fully, perhaps even enough at all. That's why we need others. They help us to see our own motivations, our own whys clearly, at least more clearly. Better is better. Are they perfect in that? No. Are we perfect in that? No. Let's drop the perfection. The perfect is the enemy of the better. There are plenty of things that we're totally ignorant of. We're ignorant of our failures. And we need that negative feedback to know when we're not doing the things we think we're doing, or when we think we're doing things the right way and we're just doing them the wrong way. Because when you fail, did you fail because your goal was wrong? What if you had a virtuous goal and you failed? Maybe it's your implementation. These are not easy things. But attention helps us with them. And having others around to attend to them for us helps us. It's distributed cognition. We can't do it all ourselves. You're surely not going to think about everything you do while you're doing it and analyze it and do it. Like, that's never going to happen. Like, at some point, like, there's, come on. And the thing is, these are the things that make us unique, right? That individuates us from others. And they're also our blind spots. You like that individualism frame that I think is total garbage? That's fine. You can individuate yourselves from other persons, for sure. No question about it. But those are also your weaknesses. Your uniqueness is not just your strength. We cannot self-transcend. We are stuck in our bodies, our imperfect, unique, flawed, constrained, wonderful body. It is ours uniquely. It individuates us from others. My body is not your body. Your body is not my body or anybody else's body. Thank goodness for that. And we do have that to some extent. We have that. Ours. Uniquely. It individuates us. Absolutely. But it comes with constraints. It comes with limitations. It comes with a whole raft of perennial patterns from below. Forget about the ones above. From below. Yeah, emergence is not some savior. And what moves the body that we have? Our body, our unique individual body. How does our intent, even if we have a conscious one, become an action? Where and how did we get drawn into attending whatever we noticed? Ooh, shiny. It's not Pastor Paul Vandersquirrel for nothing. He'd be walking down the street, see a UFO, see a homeless person, go to the homeless person. He'd go see the homeless person, miss the UFO every time. That's Paul. For better or for worse. And he's a pastor. That's what he should attend. Does he know why that's how he attends to things? What if not attending the UFO wipes out the planet? Could happen. I mean, with the lizard people running the White House and all, as we established earlier. We don't know what draws our attention. I mean, that's, again, to give rationality its due. Yeah, you can apply some rationality and kind of help to adjust your attention a bit. Is it going to get you exactly what you want, exactly how you want with 100% certainty and reliability? No. But it's going to be better. I'll take better. Jordan Peterson, right? Compare yourself to who you were yesterday, not to who somebody else is today. Good advice. Thanks, Jordan. Also, compare yourself to the ideal. Know your relationship to virtues and values and vices. We all have vices. We all have more vices than we need or would like. What can we do? We can attend. That's our power or part of it. Right? You put your time, energy, and attention, there's your power. There's all the power. Maybe not all the power. Depends what frame you're using. But, look, for the purposes of a materialistic, secular, individualistic world, there's your power. And that's what we lend up to structures. That's what we lend up to institutions. That's how governments form. There's a bottom-up component. That's the power from below. And it's granted upwards. It doesn't come down from above. That's the postmodern garbage narrative that's wrong, provably, observably incorrect. Fancy, sexy, attractive, shiny really grabs our attention. Because then we're not responsible. And why do we do anything? Well, sometimes to avoid responsibility. Oh, I don't have to do that. I might get canceled. I don't have to speak out against evil. That might cost me my job. Yeah, it might. It might. But if you're doing something with a low cost or no cost, do you believe it? Should I listen to you? If you're not willing to put anything or much of anything on the line, Nassim Taleb, whole book, Skin in the Game. Great book. Read all of Nassim's books. They're awesome. Somebody doesn't have any skin in the game. Let's suppose they're an expert. You know what experts never, ever seem to have? Skin in the game. You can say, oh, they could lose their expertise. Yeah, are they going to lose all the money they got becoming an expert? Are they going to lose all their expertise? Or are they just going to lose their cred with you and maybe a handful of your friends? You sure they're going to lose that money? And they might. But on average, do experts lose everything? No. Should they? Maybe. But whose fault is that? Don't listen to experts. They're not responsible. They have no skin in the game. Can't be responsible unless you have skin in the game. It's not possible. There's no risk for you. There's no skin in the game. Can't be responsible. Fair enough. Not a fan of irresponsibility, in case you hadn't noticed. So what are we to do about this? Why? Focus on the telos. Make goals a priority. Notice when you don't reach them. Analyze that. Adjust. Keep a diary. Refer back. Oh, in 6 months, I'm going to be here. Oh, in 30 days, I'm going to buy all the things I need to start my podcast. Whatever it is. Whatever it is. And all of this requires you to have the one thing I can say for certain you do not have enough of. Because we all don't have enough of this. Humility. That lovely humility opens us up to have the one thing we all need the most. Intimacy. That quality of a relationship that we cannot even imagine. We can hope that it would be wonderful quality, but we can't imagine it. We need that intimacy to have that. That's what allows us to be better. To have a healthier access to distributed cognition. You're not gonna hold distributed cognition by yourself. People do this all the time. Well, how do I know which distributed cognitions to listen to? Okay, you don't. Sorry, and you're not gonna. It's bigger than you. Duh. You're not gonna outsmart something bigger than you. That isn't an option available to you. It never will be. It never can be. Those are limits. Welcome to reality. Reality is that which objects to your subjective experience, among other things. And intimacy is the thing that gives you the ability to co-manifest meaning in the world. That's the intimacy crisis. We need a way to open up our relationships, to have better, deeper relationships, vertical causality, relationships, intimacy with the things around us, with the people around us, and with ourselves, the 3 frames. See my video on navigating patterns. And we can't just open up to everything. That's not intimacy. You can't have intimacy with the world. There's 7 billion people or something in the world. You can have intimacy with that. You can have intimacy with all of nature. What are you going to do? Walk every square foot of the earth? And then once you leave, it's changed. Hello? Did you visit all the continents in all 4 seasons? Well, Mark, on the equator, there aren't really 4. Whatever. We're still way an impractical zone. Like solving this problem by problem is not going to work. Do you need all that? No. People didn't have that in the past. They couldn't fly around the globe. If they did a pilgrimage somewhere once in their entire lives, throughout thousands of years of human history, they were already outliers. Now you can just fly to Rome. Be in Rome in no time. I flew to Rome once. Well, not really, but I was at one of the airports near Rome on my way to Croatia. Wonderful trip. Oh, Croatia, gorgeous. Split, Diocletian's palace, amazing. I think about Rome every day. It's the best meme ever. It's the best meme ever. I couldn't be more happy with my drawing. It's like amazing. Why do we do anything? It's probably not actually Rome, even if you're a guy, even if we include Constantinople. But it's worth attending to. All right. That's the end of the pontification session. I hope I hope that was of some small assistance. I'm going to try to go through comments here. I think I answered Alex's question. Yeah, Sampel is very important. It's got lots of lithium in it. William Branch, modern people don't think there is human will. Everything is either deterministic or random per physics, but nothing in between. Look, William, I mean, if you're a materialist, and a lot of people are in and out of church, which is the big problem. Churches think they solve materialism. They are infested with it. Um, if you're a materialist, you'll end at determinism for sure. Like there's no other way for you. It'll happen. It might take 50 years, and you may die before you hit the materialism, the end of materialism and the determinism wall. Maybe, but probably not. And all that means is you didn't think deeply enough about it, which is so ironic, right? And I can state that unequivocally. I'll die on that hill. Just saying. William learned helplessness by adult children and government dependency. Well, look, if they aren't mature, they should be dependent on the government. The question is, why aren't they mature? That's really the question. Nathaniel, some say everyone gets exactly what they want all the time. Yeah, well, or Peterson says they get exactly what they deserve. No one gets away with anything, he says. Stefan, yeah, I hear now. Started from the beginning. Dude, listen on double speed and catch up. That's how that works. Uh, William Branch, lizard people in DC? Speciesism. Yes, indeed. Indeed. I think of Mark as a contemporary William James. Oh, thank you. I think. Yeah, I like William James. Um, I am a pragmatist. I think psychology is probably evil, but whatever. Um, promote life or promote death. Yeah. Well, if you don't promote life, the number of other things you can promote are legion, we'll say. But maybe they all end in death. Ethan, wow, very cool. I don't know what's cool, but the terror of virtue. Yes, indeed. Indeed. Right. Yeah. We tend to think of virtue as a positive, but you try being courageous. I mean, this is why I'm sure people have heard me say this. Christians are for lions. Yes, they are. If Christians aren't willing to be for lions, are they Christians? There's a question. Spatch. I don't think of Rome every day. All right. Spatch. That means that you are not a man. Men are defined by whether or not they think of Rome every day. You can include Constantinople, though, according to Richard Rowland. That was so funny. I think I hurt myself laughing when I read that tweet. I think about what Brigham Young could have done better if he wasn't an enormous a-hole. Nice. Nice. Mills is late. What the heck, Mills? Come on. Nathaniel, self-deception is real. Oh, yes, it is. I would have stayed stuck if it wasn't for other people pointing me towards better ideas. Yeah. Yeah. All of us, really, right? Tackle one. What's the pick? Oh, the Rome pick? That's the we've got the guy bowing to Rome. We've got the Roman helm that I drew. We've got the little Roman archway thing and Rome, of course. That's the pick. Mills, we have to be mirrors to each other and listen to get outside of our limited self-knowledge. Yes. Yes, at least our propositional knowledge. All propositional knowledge or propositional information is limiting, I would say. That critical feedback is what you get from people who care. That's right. If you're not willing to conflict with person, you don't care about. At least not enough. Those who don't care just watch you wreck and never say a thing. That is correct, sir. That is absolutely correct. Nathaniel, I think in order to become more intimate with patterns, angels and demons add that layer. Well, you can make all kinds of religious arguments of the virtues of Catholicism and Orthodoxy versus iconoclastic Protestantism, but now is not the channel. when the Bible is read with the view that God's law is a great pattern, it's a lot more interesting than thinking in terms of rewards and punishment. Yeah, well, if you limit yourself to the Bible, you're still going to run into a problem. Mills really likes that. Yeah, I don't disagree. I'm just saying propositions are a problem. Be careful with propositions because they will eventually betray you, unfortunately. And look, I mean, it's worth thinking about the point of the monologue. What do you value? What are the virtues you're trying to instantiate? That's what's super important about this whole thing is what is it that's driving you? Where's your why? What's the why up to? And ultimately, that means what are you up to, right? Because I don't know. Do you know? You may not know, and that's okay because we're all Muppets. But also something to pay attention to be mindful about, right? Because there is a point to thinking for yourself by yourself, but it's to change your attention and to make sure you're listening, right? Nathaniel, can you briefly expand on the problem there? Do you think religious frames close us off from others? No, I think propositions close you off. So, see my video on the knowledge engine, right? So there's 4 types of information, not knowledge, as John Vervaeke would have you believe. He says knowledge and describes information rather nicely, which I think is just an error. We all have our problems. Propositional information is words and language, right? And you should navigate most propositional information with procedures, right? And you can express procedures in propositional language perfectly. Not everybody, but it's at least theoretically possible. The problem is there's 2 other types of information, ways to inform the world, right? That help you get at the why. You're not going to get at the why by using. So if you think back to the beginning of the monologue when I was talking about political frame and economic frame, those are propositional frames and procedural frames. They're closed. They're closed world systems. They build closed world, small closed world systems. That's what they do. They can't do anything else because they're discrete and linear. And all this is tied up in that knowledge and model video. And maybe I'll do more on that if people ask, comment on that, comment on this, let me know. Maybe I can do more. I'm behind on videos. I do have 2 more videos coming, by the way, but they're edited and ready to go. But I got to record a bunch more, so hopefully I'll get to that soon. When you participate in the world using poetic navigation, we'll call it, that opens everything up. Now, you cannot participate in the world properly based solely on words, whether they're spoken or written. It's not to say you can do without words. Not to say that words aren't useful, right? Or helpful or required. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that if that's your primary mode of operation, you're going to build a closed world, you're screwed. Doesn't matter if we're talking about religious or not. It makes no difference, right? If there's no hope in politics, politics becomes a tyranny. And also, you can just inject hope and change as words and convince people that you're not tyrannizing them. I'm not saying that's happened. Oh, no, I am. That happened. Anyway, so you can see it's a double-edged sword, man. Again, not answers. It's just stuff to attend to. You got to be careful. People can say hope and change and not give you any, or not give you good hope or good change. That can happen, right? People cannot say hope and change and actually do it, right? They can say, go to the moon and do this, that, and the other thing, and then change the world, and we actually go to the moon. I mean, that happens, or at least it did. Not the only thing that happened, right? It's not a full explanation. And that's the other thing. When we're looking for full explanations, we're kind of screwed. You want a full explanation, you're going to build a closed world. Something to think about. You want to merely explain things, you're going to build a closed world. And that's the problem, is that Words, books are closed worlds. I mean, Plato and Aristotle had arguments about this. How much should be written down? Not none, but maybe these other things shouldn't be written down. You want to know why they didn't hand down everything they had? Because they knew better. That's why. They knew better. No, you have to participate in these things. People can, and they do, right? Well, the Eleusinian mysteries, we're going to reverse engineer them. No, you're not. You're a Muppet. And maybe you shouldn't. Maybe that pattern, that ritual set, died out because it sucks. Did you think of that? Are you sure you want to resurrect a bad thing? That's a zombie, technically. Do you want zombies? Because that's how you get zombies. What is this Gnostic obsession with resurrecting bad rituals that died out thousands of years ago? That sounds like a bad idea. And maybe I'm crazy, but not in that way. I do have pirate paraphernalia on my live stream after all, so I can't be totally sane. I don't even own a boat right now. I wish I did. I'll get back to you, Nathan. CW, good to see you, sir. Really enjoyed your discussion on the English Civil War. Thanks. I liked it. Adam's great. Have you read CV? No. Absolutely not. I don't know who that is. She also wrote the definitive biography of my most luminary ancestor. That no alternative motivations there. No need to apologize for the non sequitur, sir. We're fine. Nathaniel. So you generalize without becoming meta-modern. There's no such thing as meta-modern. See my video on meta. Meta is the worst word ever. It doesn't convey anything useful or meaningful. Cannot convey meaningful things. Just the statement that whatever word you're using is wrong. So if you're using meta-modern, that means you're noticing that modern doesn't fit the bill. It's not saying much. Modern doesn't fit the bill for anything. Also, don't use the word modern. Different video. Also there. I might be lacking the language necessary here, but I feel like religious frame has 4 layers. Does your frame have a name? No, my frame, I don't have a frame. I have framing. Which frame would you like? There's 3 frames. I have a video on that. It's 3 frames. You with yourself, you with nature, and you with others. There you go. Some people add a 4th frame, right? You with the ineffable power above. Some people call it God, whatever. Doesn't matter. That's one way to think about it. I would say that when people use the word meta, inevitably, especially if they use metaphysics, which is just the most ridiculous and backwards contradictory term of all time, really. Again, that's in my video on meta. They're actually talking about religion. They just don't like the word religion, so they've made up another name to bring it under the scientific realm by attaching physics to it. And I have a very good video on metaphysics and why it's a ridiculous term, and people that use it should probably be gulagged or something. Just freaking stop. Just stop. You're clearly confused about how language works. You're clearly manipulating the language without realizing it. I get that you're stupid and you don't realize it, but also stop. Mills, I have no formal frame. I'm something of a hermit crab. And we all have frames. That's the problem. Nathaniel, you're secretly a Freemason. Kidding, but it has that vibe. I saw a wonderful documentary on the Freemasons, done by Freemasons, which is quite good. And it occurred to me that Freemasonry is Christianity with Unitarianism built. It's like they're early Unitarians. It's really funny. It's quite amusing because they steal a bunch of framing from Christians. It's a total riot. Yeah, it's a very Gnostic cult. Ultimately, sort of cracks me up. No, I'm not. I mean, look, if you're trying to co-locate me, that's not going to work. So I don't suggest you spend too much time with it. You'll just hurt yourself. Many have tried, none have succeeded, and none will. Ethan, mega modern. Yes. Van Dyke actually did that recently in one of his videos, and I was like, you're kind of proving my point, boy. Pre-modern, modern, postmodern, meta-modern. Like, what are you saying at that point? You can't possibly be using a useful way of speaking about the world. So, yeah, it's worth noting. Just worth noting. So yeah. Oh, there's Jesse. Jesse, welcome. How are you doing, my friend?
Good evening. Hello.
Good to see you.
Good to see you too.
What'd you think? Did you get in the beginning?
I did. I'm not sure where to jump on. What I can tell you is that I watched The Matrix last night for the first time in about a year.
Oh,
And
goodness.
there's a scene with a checkerboard floor, which is a reference to Masonic temples. And I had never seen that before, and I freaked out. I was like, is there other Masonic imagery in The Matrix?
Oh yes.
We'll find out.
Oh yes, there is. I don't know enough of the Masonic imagery to know all of
Neither
it,
do I.
but it's all over the place. That's the funny part. Yeah. Well, and see, people talk about manipulation. Like, you think that you understand the manipulation that's being done to you, but actually all the manipulation that's being done to you that matters is stuff you're never going to see. That's the sad
Subliminal.
part.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, the conspiracy theorists are screwed, and because really their attention is just in the wrong place. And to that point,
They
one of
value
the
the wrong
things that sort of came up for me that I commented on one of Mathieu Peugeot's tweets about, which is very wonderful. My Twitter week has been amazing. So it's like Twitter today just blew up again. So it's like, oh wow, I'm like super popular here. Yeah, but one of the things we were talking about is when leadership fails, right? Whether you have a loss of leadership or leadership just stops leading correctly or whatever. And leadership isn't just leader, right? It's more than that. Leadership and authority, leadership and tyranny. I have a video on leadership and tyranny. Check it out. It's great. Navigating patterns, right? When that fails, it's cabals all the way down and secret societies, and right, because things still have to get done, right? But now no one wants to take credit for managing anything. And Mature tells a wonderful story about being a teacher in Canada, and then they're doing this stuff, and they're like telling them like, well, you have to choose 8 of these 10 values, and then they choose the values, and then they chastise them for not acting out the values. These are your values. You chose them. He's like, wait a minute. No, I didn't. You gave me a list and said, choose 8. I didn't choose these values. I chose them from your list. There's the illusion of choice, right? And then rather than the principal saying you're a bad teacher or you didn't do this right? It's like you did this to yourself because you chose these values and you're not acting them out. And of course, and the whole time they're making the judgment. It's like, wait a minute, I have no say in whether or not I'm correctly acting out my own values. And look, I'm not an individualist, but like, that's a little ridiculous. You got to have some say in it, right? So it's very sneaky. It's very sneaky.
Well, that's what Peterson was talking about. That's what started the 2016. That is the heart of the 2016 revival right there.
Yeah, to some extent. Right. I don't think he did a good enough job of, I love Jordan Peterson, and I don't think he talks enough about responsibility and leadership. Those are his 2 weak points, for sure.
He dropped it like after the first year or two. He dropped that sort of angle of his.
Right, but I don't think he understands it. And he couldn't find anyone to discuss it with him.
Ooh.
To be fair.
I think he.
And that's why you drop it.
The closest he got was Jocko. Yeah.
That's why you drop it. Yeah. Because you don't have anyone to bounce it off of. Like, fair enough. Like, I'm not criticizing that at all.
Yeah, I think he got close with Jocko Willig, but I think that's a pretty finite response. And
you can, you can come back and you can say, well, Mark, how does this affect you? I talk about all this stuff long before it hits my live streams. All my videos get well discussed long before I do any of them. Like, this is not me. I may be driving the bus here. Fair enough. Right. But like, man, this takes a lot of people. That thumbnail, I didn't do that gorgeous thumbnail. Sally Joe did that. Like, I can barely draw. The only reason why there's anything on the board at all is because of Sally Joe. She's like, you can do this. And I'm like, no, I can't. And she's like, yes. And then I found something on the internet and did the helmet. And then she showed me how to draw the little guy, the prostrate guy there. And the little pillar I found on the internet. I was like, I think I could do that. So I was all excited. Yeah, it's been a very exciting evening for me anyway. So yeah. Ridiculous. Look, I'm gonna post the link if anybody else wants to join. Go right ahead. I'll pin it on navigating patterns, which is the only place. As soon as it'll let me. That's annoying. I had to find a way to fix that. Like, why does Google put bugs in their software and then annoy me? I swear they do it to me personally. But yeah, feel free to jump in and discuss. And yeah, I mean, it's interesting, right? There's a lot of why questions in the Matrix, and nobody, the level of manipulation going on with a movie like that, or a movie like Barbie. Like Barbie's pure manipulation.
Yeah.
Right? It's all mirror. It's all mirror. And you have no idea. You think you're seeing a movie. PSYOP confirmed. And you fell for it. You thought you were going to the movies. You thought you watched a movie. You did not. You didn't. Hey, there's Alex. Uh-oh. He's got
Test.
Something going on.
Is that working?
Are you echoing? Yeah, you're echoing.
You're echoing. This happened last week with Alex.
I know.
Mm-hmm.
Which is weird. Like, you should never have an echo with headphones.
No.
He still has an echo.
How cancellation turned off?
I don't know.
Mute you for now, Alex, and we'll see if
Yeah, you can
figure it
unmute
out.
yourself when you want to talk. Because when we're talking, we just echo, so it's kind of annoying.
See.
Is that, you think you fixed it?
No.
I don't know.
That's better.
Well, we can
I can't
try it.
tell.
Oh, try it now.
Yeah, let's
A,
try
B,
it now.
A, B, C, D, E, F, G.
Yeah, you sound fine. It's when I talk, I hear myself coming through like half a second later. But I don't, if you have headphones on, how the hell would your microphone pick that up? So either you've got a cross audio channel or you're not going through your headphones or something.
I think it's just loud.
That could be.
No.
I don't know why your microphone would pick it up.
Because it's a dumb microphone.
I don't see how it would leak out of your headset that loud. But
Because it's stupid. I don't know. I really don't know.
If you tell me
Fair.
your
It's been
headphone
doing
brain, I'll
it.
help you.
yeah, just mute yourself when you're not talking and we'll be fine.
Yeah. Well, I kind of thought of bringing up something. In the near future, I might be putting on a lot more work for myself than I've ever done before in my life. And this is something I've usually thought of in the past as D-Day, like the time when the beaches are stormed and it's time to get down to business and no looking back, sort of deal. So I was kind of wondering what in your life, what do you think was your D-Day moment or your D-Day operation when it was time to work? You had to just go to work and you had no time for anything else, sort of deal.
Look, I think you need to look at this in the inverse. You quit on more things than you will start in life. I don't think there is one definitive D-Day. There are many operations in your life, many things you're trying to attempt, but I don't think that thing is D-Day.
Well,
There's never
it's
guaranteed
a
that D-Day was
metaphor.
going to work. No, but
Yeah, I'm just saying it like, just like an important day. That's all I mean. I don't mean it you're actually going to war or anything like that.
You won't know.
Not like that. Just
You won't know.
Hmm?
You
Sorry,
won't
what?
know. You won't
Yeah,
know.
you don't know in advance. Like, you can't plan these things. You can say things like, all right, I'm going to buckle down and just do whatever it takes to whatever. But like, that's every other day for me. It doesn't always work lately because usually I fall asleep in the afternoon and forget everything I was doing. But yeah, I mean, that's an attitude. That's the Jocko Willink sort of, right? That's that attitude. Like, we're just going to go at this and do it, sort of a thing, right? And
Well, I do need to be prepared though, so because you don't know.
You absolutely need to be prepared. And you know what's never going to happen? You're never going to be prepared. So you need to get over that because it's just the way it is. Like, you can't prepare for the future, but you don't know what it is. And it's not to say you can't be prepared generically, but your preparations, like if you're a Boy Scout, I was a Boy Scout. If you're a Boy Scout, you realize preparation means fallback plans when things fail. It doesn't mean being prepared for the thing you're doing necessarily. Not to say you don't go in totally unprepared, but this idea of preparedness, this is another sneaky way that perfection gets to us, right? And what is perfection? The perfect is the enemy of the better. That's what the perfect is. And it's also, perfection also crushes confidence. If you're waiting to be perfect to take an action, you're completely screwed. You're never going to take an action. And you know, I stole that from Sally Joe. Perfection crushes confidence. Look, she stole the concept from me, but she framed it better, which really pisses me off because normally she can't talk. So for her to come out with something that good is just annoying, ultimately. So yeah, I mean, a lot of stuff you have to dive into. Sorry, Jesse, go ahead.
If you want one way of being prepared, make a list, and it'll be impossible. And I tweeted out this concept this week. Make a list of everything you've quit on in your life and why and what you learned. Because if you want to know how to be better experience, if you want to know how to be prepared, right, you need to catalog what you've learned, and you've only learned things through experience. That's it.
Yeah, I don't even make a list. I was saying I don't even make a list of all that stuff because it's just too much of that. Like in the past year, there's just many plans that went underground because, you know, basically no foundation. What do I know? And you know, there's no point.
No, but you do have a foundation.
No, I do have a foundation, and I don't need to find out where it was because it wasn't over here. I thought it was over here, but you know, I had to learn that it wasn't over here before I could come back to the center where it actually was. And that's painful, but it had to happen. I knew that, so.
What did you just tell me?
I think basically what you were saying.
Hear a statement or a question or comment in anything you just said then.
I don't know. Maybe I'm rambling.
It's fine. No, it's fine. But what you've asked me to be involved in this conversation. So I've said, look, if you want to know your foundations or your experiences of what you've learned, you need to catalog them. And it will be painful, but that's the best way.
Yeah, that is the problem.
Where your values are. So
yeah, you're not going to find your foundation if you're continually doing things and then finding your foundation. Like that's right. You have to attend to the failures and go, oh, okay. Well, these are the things that don't, for whatever reason, like it's not relevant whether they failed because you didn't have your foundation or because you just aren't able to do stuff. I cannot draw. I am so pleased with myself today. You have no idea how happy I am right now. That is as close to good drawing as I've done in years. And it's not like never. I used to have this guy. I needed a mechanical pencil, the .07s millimeter lead pencil, and I could draw this scary guy. And I worked on that for like a year because I suck at drawing. Right. So this is thrilling to me because I did that. I had a lot of help from I'm sitting there with my phone, right? Like, and a 6-panel set just to get that one little image. 6 panels just to get there. And you know, I did an okay job. I'm right. But like I just have limitations. Right. Another limitation of mine is I'm probably never going to learn to play guitar. I've owned guitars and I just can't. I just won't sit down.
You just string it. Just take your fingers and just go at it.
I guarantee you, any set of pieces of advice you have for learning guitar, I have heard from several thousand people before. I talked to everybody about it. And I just realized I'm not going to be able to sit down and focus every day long enough to do that. Now, one guy said, and a number of people have said this, like, I don't know, it takes like a year. And I'm like, oh, fair enough, like whatever. But also nothing ever took me a year ever. So it's like, I don't know, man. And maybe that means I could do it in less than a year if I could sit down and just like more than a week, do it every day. I don't have any idea, right? But I haven't even managed that for whatever reason. Like, I don't know. There's tons of stuff I can sit down and just do every day for a year. That's not a problem, except when it's a guitar or a piano or right any musical instrument for whatever reason. And I love music, right? Playing music is a whole different thing for me, right? And so it's just a limitation. Is that a foundation problem? No, it's a problem if you want to pursue it forever, which, I just basically dropped it. Not to say I wouldn't pick it up again someday, maybe, but like, no. I would very much like to be the guy who just goes to the party and like someone has a guitar and I just pick it up and play a tune or two. Like, that would be awesome. But I'm not that guy. Right? I'm not that guy. Chad is. Hey, Chad.
Hey there. How are you?
Doing all right. How you doing?
Good. I just wasn't sure if I was roboting or not because my internet's been acting really weird as of late. So
that sucks. No, you're not roboting. You sound clear as a bell, sir. It's good to hear from you.
Yeah.
The best way to learn an instrument is actually to find the one song that you like and just learn that. Start there until you've mastered the one thing. Yeah, one. You only need one. You need a thread.
This is what pisses me off about Neoplatonism. They talk about the one. I'm like, the one?
Oh, come on.
I don't have a one favorite anything. I don't have a one best any. I just don't.
You just need to pick one.
To start with.
Well, here's what I'd be interested in knowing: how many people actually who haven't been musicians in the past pick up a guitar in their, past their 20s and actually excel at it. I think that percentage of people are probably like almost nobody.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, I mean, like if the way that I learned was, I was like, 11 years old and I had nothing to do. I had no friends. I had, my mom took me to lessons for like 2 weeks. I learned what guitar tabs were and how to tune a guitar. And then from there, I just went and like did my own thing because I'm a Protestant idiot. And so basically what I would do is I learned one song, which was the Bush song, Glycerine or what the hell is that song? Glycerine. Yeah.
That's a good one. That's
it's one of like 3 chords, so like it's a nice pattern. It's easy enough pattern. It's a bar chords, easy enough pattern to follow. And then from there, I ended up. What I found was I was too lazy to learn other people's music. Not only was I too lazy, I wasn't satisfied with how good it was sounding in the time that it was working. So I would mostly just like put on a Foo Fighters record or Sublime's self-titled record at the time, and I would just play anything that I wanted to over top of that because I was familiar with those songs and I was unfamiliar exactly with guitar, and I would just kind of and at the time it was perfect because I didn't care about the results. Like I just wanted to. I liked the feeling of playing, and maybe I might trip over something creative, and that was kind of cool. And that ended up turning into where I actually would go out and play with other people. That's always a huge piece of it. And again, when you're kids, you can find a lot of people do that with free time. And so that's how, if you want to learn a guitar, I would say go do that. And then, whatever. But, I have this thing that I've been thinking about lately as far as people shutting themselves down from participating in different activities because they don't think it's good or something like this, like writing, for instance, maybe writing short stories or something. If you think that you would want to do something like that, just go do it. It doesn't have to be good. It doesn't have to be, and just explore your creativity just for the sake of being able to do it. I think there's or sell it or market it or something. No, just go do it. Unless, I mean,
Now it's roboting.
Now you're roboting, Chad. We kind of lost you.
Hello, Dolly.
Hello.
Hey, Dolly.
Um,
Good to see you.
how are you guys? You good? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Actually,
Well,
to,
what Chad's saying is, I really agree with it. I mean,
Mhm.
if anything, just try. And I mean, Mark, what you did is amazing. You said like, oh, I can't draw. And like, look behind you. Now you can never ever say that again, basically.
Oh, that's
Because you
right. I'll
can
say it.
draw.
I'll say it forever.
And wow. It's amazing.
yeah,
I can't wait to see what you do next.
right? The category of draw. I can't draw, but yeah, you can draw. It's just a matter of what you decide the quality is or not. You know what I mean? Like, why are we so fixated on the quality of it rather than the quality of the experience of doing it?
Woo, yeah. Sage advice.
I would completely go against all this advice with every bone in my body. You will only get so far with belief in yourself. You need evidence.
That's
You need serious evidence. That's
Yeah,
what I'm
but you're
saying. You need that.
talking about-
You need to conquer that one song. Find that one drawing from that Mark's going and goes, yes, I can do this, and then you build from there. If you're constantly relying on this identification with something or against something, like, oh, I can't do that because I suck at that guitar song, you'll say, I will suck at that guitar song, and you're like, oh, why? Well, I suck at that guitar. And then why? Because it's that one thing, and you haven't found the evidence of that which you're trying to attain.
Yeah, but we're talking about different levels of participation and like what are the like even like let's say short stories. Same thing with playing music. Like one thing I think is a valuable thing to do is to do these things with other people, participate and practice in the play with other people, and that will help hone your skills. But it's also like I'm not talking about results here. I'm not talking about getting great results. I'm talking about the joy of participation instead of relying on the television for your entertainment or the or the internet or whatever. Go and be entertained and create things with other people, and there's something there that will help sharpen all of those things that you're talking about. And you might find pretty quickly I'm not a great artist, or I'm not a great guitar player, or I'm not even a good artist or even a good guitar player, but I enjoy participating with others. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, certainly you want to focus on the participation, on the relationship rather than the end results. But you can't ignore the end results either, and you don't want to get solipsistic about it. So you don't want to make it all about you and your relationship with the song or your relationship with your ability to play the song, right? It also has to have something outside of yourself, and that's how we find things like our competence, our limitations, our foundation. Right.
Yeah.
That's how we find our why, like paying attention to those relationships. And, knowing, for example, like I just want to highlight this comment, Nathan, I choose the steak dinner and re-enter the matrix. I guess that's why I like the religious frame. Look, and choosing the steak dinner is the right answer. A, it's steak, duh. B, the case is convincing. The case is convincing. Like, yeah, wouldn't you rather live a happy life bounded by the matrix rather than living in the sewers of a dead city where you're being chased by mechanical monsters all day? I don't even know why there's a question there. Like, what do you mean? Plug me in. Thank you very much. And that's the irony of the movie, is the right message is backwards. Like, they cast the right message as being this rebellious person fighting the machines when it's a miserable life by all accounts. There's only one city. It's near the core of the earth, and they spend all their time, hacking into the matrix as rebels. eating snot that tastes like nothing, right? But it contains everything you need to survive. How is that worse than being plugged into the Matrix, where at least you get a nice world to live in where you can do things? Like you get a lot more why out of the Matrix than you're going to get out of being in Zion in some sense.
When you're in the Matrix, you're a cannibal, so that sucks.
Yeah, I mean, I think that if you look at the next two movies, that doesn't resolve. The big trick of the Matrix is you're never not under the machines, ever. That never happened in the movies. It never happened. You are always subject to the machines.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if you're plugged in or not. You're still subject to the machines. You never got out of that.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, the humans have a computer that they're using to run on to stay alive in the deep core.
Yeah.
In the first movie, they said that out loud. It's actually, we have our own computer that's keeping us alive.
It's explicit in the later films, right? What does that machine do? I don't know. Right? There's the statement, I don't know the world. Mills, what if spending too much time in the Matrix causes you to forget? I hope so. Why wouldn't you forget the old bad world? That's your trauma. Even if you don't choose the sleepy time steak. The sleepy time steak.
I'm so sick of it. Can we never say it again?
This note on participation, though, you can over rely on needing to with others.
Right, but also I want to highlight this comment from Dolly earlier, right? I think in retrospect you can identify D-Day. Yeah, in retrospect, which means you can't prepare for it, right? And that's really was the point of what we were talking about.
Yeah, I don't know why you needed to highlight that now. That was like 5 hours ago. But anyway.
Well, no, I mean it's all
agreed.
Yeah, it's still we're still talking about the same set of things, right? This idea of participation, what you can and can't know, right? What the why behind our motivations, right? And
I do like that what somebody talked here about doing inventory stuff. That's always good. Build the map of your past.
Yeah.
So you can know what foundation you're currently standing on and where you would like to
past authoring.
But I refer to it as inventory, and then the concept of hope for a better past, I think, is a good concept. Basically, it's just a matter of perception change and seeing things more rightly, because then I have a better chance of how I might be able to see the world as I move forward. And that has been a game changer, but that doesn't go far enough. I mean, you want to, well, I found that I didn't want to, but I had to, clean up the past like that are all vital for being able to sustain standing on the new foundation, which is it's not a foundation. The foundation I stand on is probably not one that most people would want to stand on. It's difficult. It's
and Peterson talks about that, right? The importance and the ability to reframe your
all the
path.
time. It's not, joyous all the time. It's closely tied to,
Yeah.
Well, guys,
you can
and gal,
and should.
I am watching some BBC shows right now with my wife, and so.
Yep. That was quick.
That's it. All right.
Yeah, you can and should reframe your past, right? Like Peterson talked a lot about that. Like it's a good technique, right? You got to know, was this really traumatic or was it also generative, right? Did it also do something for me at the same time?
Yeah, that's very important. And, sometimes you'll find there's a whole bunch of stuff in your past that has heaped up, and that's kind of what's preventing you from either being in the present and then like also maybe preventing you from looking to the future with a sense of hope as well. So, and then, it's not like it's not practical because you can use that stuff to help you heal and therefore to help you be able to move forward in a more effective way. Yeah. So I like what Chad was saying. It's pity that he dropped off so fast, but anyway.
I think Alex was trying to get to a different point. Is uh, how do you go to battle? I think is probably a better way to reframe your.
Yeah, or how do you be prepared for that
No,
event?
no, I wasn't really asking him to be prepared. I was just saying you could probably think of a time when it was time to storm the beaches, so to speak. And that's just what you did. So maybe that's not true for everyone. I just always had that image in my mind for a long time, but I didn't really do anything. And I'm thinking, oh, is it D-Day today? Is it today? And it wasn't, of course, because I wasn't doing anything.
It's not D-Day if you
Yeah.
don't get off the boat, dude. Like, you have to storm the beach. Doesn't storm you. It doesn't come to you. You go to it. Storming the beach is an action you take. That's the issue. It's not something that happens to you. Things are going to happen to you, and they're going to feel like D-Day. But that's not D-Day because you didn't get in the boat, go across the channel, open up, and get fired upon as part of moving forward. Like, if you stayed on the shore back in England, D-Day wasn't a big deal to you. The people in America, D-Day didn't mean anything. Just go to work and do what they were doing.
D-Day battles were bloodless. Actually, if you do the research too, that's another thing you'll find out. Sometimes your biggest goal or your biggest fear actually doesn't cost you anything.
Right.
And that will scare you more than anything in life. Just to realize, hey, why was I waiting here? What was I trying to accomplish? What prevented me?
Well, then that's
did I quit on this goal? Yeah,
that's the biggest fear that we actually have, right? That's why we don't do things, is because, oh, if I do it now, I realize there was nothing holding me back, and I screwed myself out of all these previous opportunities. And boy, does that prevent a lot of people from doing things that they could otherwise do. And I have a friend now she's been at this crappy job for years and years and years, and now she has no choice but to quit. And she's like, well, I need to make up my mind. And I'm like, no, you don't. Your mind making days are over. You have deferred this decision far too long and stressed yourself out for years at a shitty job that is just being mean to you deliberately. And they're all jerks, like literally. And yeah, government failures, like it's bad. It's bad. And, you just reach the end. And it's like, yeah, D-Day came for you. And, she took the bull by the horns and resigned today, which is good. Like, you don't want to get to the end, right? But still, like, there wasn't a choice. The illusion of choice, the choice was over a long time ago. You have to move, and therefore you have to quit. So yeah, that happens to people, and it's like, well, why
it happened to me? It definitely happened to me a few times in different ways, and that didn't make anyone happy. Of course, it didn't make me happy. And then I can't explain it to anyone because they're not going to understand anyway. So I don't want to waste my time with that.
Well, whether you can
explain it to anybody waste my time with that.
Yeah, but whether you can explain it to anybody or not, you still have to talk to people about it. Like, the expectation that they're going to understand is not required.
Yes. I mean, essentially, like, don't you find it meaningful when a person, maybe they don't understand, but they're willing to listen to you? And I think
that is
that
gold.
in itself.
That is pure gold.
Well, then I think that it's important for you to at least try to see it that way and try, like, and not maybe have the expectation of the other person to understand you. But yeah, it is gold because it's difficult to find those people, and but when you do, and when you get that opportunity, don't cut yourself off from speaking and sharing and saying what you have to say,
Hang
because
on
it
to the
is so
gold.
rare. Yeah, go for gold, I guess.
Alex, what barbarians are at your gates right now? Go into it.
No, I don't think they're at the gates. I think I'm just getting ready to kind of restart again. And go
Okay, that's
just keep
completely different
exploring.
than what you've been talking about for the last 30 minutes. Beginning again is a very
Well,
different topic.
I mean, I don't know what's on the other side. I'm just
It's not storming the beaches.
well, like you said, I don't know. I don't know that because as far as I know, it could very easily be at any moment storming the beaches, or it could be, you go in and then all of a sudden there's a colossal giant who colossal troll who lives there, and you just didn't know. There's a colossal troll, and he has a big club.
Those aren't different, Alex. What you're
No,
describing.
I'm not saying they're different. I like to mix the metaphor. I like to try to invent metaphors.
Alex, I know what you're doing perfectly well. I understand what you're doing. What I'm saying is you're talking about the same problem over and over again and using different metaphors and thinking to yourself that you're talking about different things. But actually, you're just talking about the danger of taking an action in the world.
Well, no, but I'm just saying that's what you said. You said, I don't know what's on the other side, because you said that.
Yeah, you don't. And that's the problem.
That's true.
That's fear. That's how you're responding. It's a fear response. It's a fear of risk response. Well, I don't know what I'm going to face, and therefore I'm not going to storm the beaches. And this is what I said before, right? Like, it's every other day for me. It's like, oh, it's time to storm the beaches again. Yup, it is, because I woke up.
I'm not saying I'm not doing it. I didn't say I wasn't doing it.
I didn't accuse you of not doing it. So it's interesting that you would go there.
I don't know. I just thought that's what you said for a second. So I don't know.
No, all I said was that's what you were describing.
Well, this is something I am continuously learning, this communication problem. So whatever it is, you can put it on the shelf.
A limiting belief.
A what?
A limiting belief.
For who?
You, me, we all have them. We're all Muppets.
Yeah.
So what are you going to do
I
about
accept
it?
that.
Are you going to live with the existential risk that you're going to die one day?
I don't care about that.
Well, then why are you struggling to do anything?
Well, look, here's the thing. If you live in the Matrix and you go out, you essentially don't know how to live. And that's a massive problem.
Yeah. But if you don't care about whether or not you live or die, then it doesn't matter. I mean, look, William's saying you have to take calculated risks so there are no gains. You will get injured. You pick yourself up and try again, right? The biggest risk is dating and marrying. You're probably correct about that. And Mills, thank you, Mills. I really appreciate that. I value this space and its unique affordances. Family time now. Thanks. Well, good luck with the family,
Mills.
sir.
God bless.
Alex, I think
something. We'll go for Del. Go
ahead,
oh
Dolly.
gosh, sorry. Well, Alex, I'm picking up something in what you're saying that I can sort of feel a slight relatability to, but I'm not sure. But what I want to say is sort of like maybe what could help would be, which word should I use? Fellowship or someone else, a partner, someone who kind of can be a type of guide, or can help you sort of learn the reins. I'm also being metaphorical right now, but and that can give you sort of more sense of security for stepping out and taking those steps, and getting the swing of things. Because one thing that can really make the fear before the time really huge, and sometimes out of proportion, or that's an experience I've had, was the whole element of having to do it alone. I don't know, maybe that's irrelevant to you, but yeah, when there's someone that you can maybe reach out to, or someone that's willing to sort of help give you some advice, or talk you through it, or mentor you in a way, that can really help make those first steps doable, if you get what I'm saying. I'm sorry if I don't make sense.
Yeah, I really need to address this because I'm confused. When I brought up the point that I brought up, I didn't intend for it to sound like I'm in need of advice, or that, like, those kinds of people that you're talking about, if I'm paying attention, if I'm like humbly paying attention, I see those people all the time. I know they're there. They're all around. I don't need to really look for them at all. So I don't really have a problem as far as I'm concerned. So I'm kind of confused why I'm coming across as that. I don't understand.
I wasn't saying you have a problem or anything like that. Nothing like that at all. And you saying that now helps me to understand that maybe I was coming across wrong, or that maybe I was misunderstanding you. But I can sort of say that perhaps I'm also a bit confused right now as to what exactly, or where this conversation is, or what exactly is happening right now. Like, what is the main point?
I mean, I was just kind of describing just kind of what's happening. That's kind of all I was trying to do. So, and it's fine. It's fine with the advice and all. I'm just confused by it. No, not
What
confused.
advice have I given you?
No, I'm not.
What actual advice have I given you?
Oh, so you're not giving me advice.
I haven't given you advice.
Okay. That's good to know.
Here is some advice. We'll frame it this way. A guide does not always come to you. You have to seek the guide. It's very random. It's very random. Every story will tell you it's very random that a guide shows up in a village. A magician, a sage, Gandalf, whoever, shows up in the village and they have the perfect advice, the perfect wisdom, the perfect counsel. More than often than not, you have to seek the guide, and then you also have to let go of the guide, or betray the guide, or move on from the guide in order to complete the quest, in order to attain the goal, in order to secure the life.
Well, you meet the guide, then you submit to the guide, then you stop submitting to the guide and move past the guide, right? And that's very much, that's an Eastern philosophy as well, right? Or Eastern spiritual belief, right? You're supposed to run Buddha over if you see him in the road, absolutely, right? And it's in the Western tradition all over fairy tales and stories and everything else, and that is part of it, right? That and the real question is, Alex, maybe you'll be brave and just at least watch this part again from the point that you came on, and listen very carefully to what you said, and then to your responses to what we responded with, because no one offered you any advice, right? But you did ask a question, which is, what do you do when you reach D-Day, right? And my answer was kind of like, yeah, that's every other day for me. That's called waking up in the morning, right? That's how I view it. Right. And Jesse had a different comment. Right. And none of that was directed at you. And I would say, when Dolly says something, for example, and says, "Oh, it sounds like those people need to be around you," and you say, "Oh, I'm aware of them." That sounds like a problem already, right? That sounds like a loss of intimacy. The fact that something's available and the fact that you're engaging with it, right? That's the difference between knowing something propositionally and participating in something, right? Experientially. And that's a huge whopping difference, right? Because if people are available to help you and you don't let them help you, that's a limiting thing for you to move on. And look, you don't storm the beaches by yourself. That didn't happen in D-Day. So you have to be aware.
Yeah, they help me a lot. They do.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And you're blessed because, let me just share some, like, I'm not in the same, situation as you. So, for example, if I'll just give an example. Let's say I have to storm D-Day now, quickly, in the next few hours. Just have to, I would have to go at it alone. And I'm not going to go deeper into that. So I'm just, I'm coming from that perspective. So, yeah, and I wouldn't recommend that anyone get to a place where I am, just like Mark was sort of leading to. So, yeah, but yeah, so that's where I'm coming from. Not that I'm not wanting to seek a guide for myself to help me move forward, because I think that is very, very important. And I love what Jesse said there and how he said it. That was super clippable, quotable, and very I like the way he said that. But yeah.
Yeah, I like what Nathaniel said here. They say the guide will find the student when they're ready. Well, the guide is usually hanging out waiting for the student to be ready. And the student doesn't know that they're not ready. They think they are. They're like, "Oh, whatever. There's a guide there, so I must be ready because they're there." But that's not what ready means in that context, right? And then I want to address this, Alex. What made you share on a public forum, if not advice?
I don't know. So I don't know. That feels like it's forcing the answer. So
it's breaking your frame.
I don't understand. Like, why would I
have a
have
frame
to go
problem.
on to ask for advice?
You have a frame problem.
I don't understand why.
No, he's not saying you had to do that. He's saying that happened, which is a different thing. Say that.
Well, I wasn't trying to do that. Maybe it happened, but I wasn't trying to do it. So
that's
what
good.
it is.
Well, that's good. That's a good illustration for the monologue, right? Why do we do anything? Why did you do that? I'm not saying I know. I'm not pretending I have no idea, right? And that's why I suggested maybe when this is over, go to the part where you jumped in and listen to the whole thing again and take some notes on, wait a minute, what happened here? Because you're genuinely confused, and that's fine. I'm not saying you shouldn't be genuinely confused, right? Fair enough. I think we're all genuinely confused. And that's what Nathaniel was pointing at. Like, he asked a question. Clearly, he's confused about why it is you jumped on a public forum and shared in the way that you did. I want to put a fine point on it. I know I'm putting words in Nathaniel's mouth, although he typed it. Fair enough. But the type of sharing you did in the way that you did it is, I think, what he's specifically referring to. Like, you didn't come on and say, "Hey guys, what's going on? I had this kind of a day," right? You rather specifically said, "What do you guys do about storming the beach on D-Day?" Which is fine.
That is not exactly what I asked. I asked, can you think of a time? I'm pretty sure I said this, but maybe I didn't. Can you think of a time in your life when such a thing occurred? So.
Yeah, I don't see an actual difference there, right? But you asked something specific about sharing, and we also shared that. I thought Jesse went first, and then I went and said, like, every other day, right? Like, and then you took that as advice, which was like a little strange because we were all just sharing our experience. That's not really advice, right? And so why is it that you took that as advice when we answered exactly the question that you asked in the way that you asked it, and it wasn't advice? Like what caused? And this is why Jesse's saying you're having a framing problem, right? Because you're the one that's confused. Everything that you wanted to manifested, and you're confused, which is fine. And that is the theme of the, ironically or not, by accident or on purpose, doesn't matter. That's interesting.
Okay, maybe I should provide an answer, like, to your question. If I say yes, I can actually remember a time like that, then that's my response to you. And then what would you continue saying? Because you asked the question, now I'm giving
I don't know.
my
I don't
own
know.
answer. I can remember. I don't feel like I need to describe it, but
I don't know if I planned on saying anything really, so I don't know.
Yeah, that's fine.
Sorry, I crashed the discussion.
Not at all.
Not at all.
no,
It's
you
not,
didn't.
well, it's not the only. Well, it's not the only time that's happened in my life. So that's what I did. Don't worry about it.
You did not crash anything. In fact, this was super interesting, actually. I mean, that's a question that is thought provoking, and I'm definitely thinking of quite a couple of things right now. So I would like to say thank you, actually, Alex.
I've definitely crashed things before, though, so there's no doubt about that. Like, conversations just go completely off the rails. It's hard to know what to do about those.
It's a limiting belief.
Right.
What
Like we talked about earlier.
Is a limiting belief.
Well, and
when I open my mouth, I talk to people, things usually crash. So if you approach...
No, that's backed by evidence.
Of course it's backed by evidence. So what are you going to do about it?
Right.
I think what I do about it is, I don't know, it just nags me so much. Like, I have to take it seriously. Like, I just can't get it out of my head.
Okay, so if you've been taking it seriously for so long, stop taking it seriously. I'm actually actively listening to what you're saying and reflecting it back to you. And this is called a frame break. I do it in love, by the way, too.
I'm just now I'm really confused at what specifically you're talking about, because I feel like I was talking about something and then you're just talking about something else.
No, I'm not. I'm actually actively.
Well, maybe you're not. I don't know. I'm just confused. So.
Yeah. I've been confused many times in my life. I think I've been through 5 different car accidents. Like, dude, the amount of pain that I've faced in my 35 years of this life, silly, absolutely silly.
Yeah, I should be in car accidents, but it's only a miracle that I haven't been.
Exactly.
One of them was almost my fault.
Yeah.
It should have been. I should have been. I was like, at that moment, I'm like, I'm getting off the interstate. No more interstate.
Yeah, well, that speaks to distractedness and confusion and the inability to find a foundation and a frame, right? Whether it's in a car or in a conversation. And yeah, people go through that for sure. And look, I mean, if you're going to come on this live stream, that's going to happen to you. Like, you can watch previous live stream, you watch the Richard live stream and see somebody totally deer in headlights, who later on cast that as like the worst thing that ever happened to him on stream. Not getting called evil and getting kicked off of a stream, which happened a few weeks later. No, the interaction with Mark, where he actually stayed and talked to Mark and Jesse off camera after the stream for a very long time. That was the trauma stream. Not getting called evil and kicked off. That wasn't the trauma stream, apparently. Like, obviously, he's, like, there's a there. I don't know what it is. I'm not making the claim. I'm just saying that's a little weird, Like, you would think the thing you would remember is getting kicked off the stream and called evil, but like, if that's not what you remember, then whatever. I mean, that's and that's his thing, right? And then he's not the first, second, or third person, right? And we've had I don't want to call them complaints, but concerns from people about, wow, you let this person on and this happened and you didn't handle that the way I wanted you to. And like, oh, okay, like fair enough, but also my stream. And, I'm not perfect. So these things are going to happen. Right. And so this is a good place for that, because like we do that all the time. It's just like normal for us.
This will be a D-Day for you if you let it, Alex. Look, it's just a date on a map. It's just an event in time.
Okay.
Yeah, and
You'll get through it, man. You'll get through it.
Yeah.
Whatever you're going through right now, you'll get through it.
Well, and you can,
yeah, I'll definitely. Yeah.
It takes years. It takes years
Whatever.
to heal.
It'll take 10, 20 years.
It's
Definitely.
worth it.
well, I don't think I'd be that cynical about it, but it'll take as long as it takes, and it'll take longer if you look at how long it's going to take rather than just getting to the hard work of doing it. Right? The perfect is the enemy of the better. It's that simple.
Go, darling.
No, I mean, it's so true. And perfection, and just having that in your head, having that as a concept, attaching that to anything, striving to get that, expecting that in something, expecting that to happen. That, it's like that is, I feel like, to say it from, there's so many ways to just give such horrible examples of what can happen with perfection in the mix. But one of the things is, if that's like in the front of your vision, for example, it can set you up for failure, because perfection is not something that you can actually reach or achieve. And maybe in an exam or something you can get 100%, and maybe that is considered perfection or something like that. But that's as far as that goes. I'm not sure what to say except for, yeah, the only way you'll know is to move, is to go. And the longer you stay, and I'm not saying you are stuck, but maybe you're in a certain place where that's one of the feelings you could be feeling. It can amplify many other things that are contributing to the rigidity of this movement towards the other side. And you know what I see? I see that once you do this, once you get through and out on the other side, there'll be people around you, and they're still for you, and they to support you, and you can still engage with them. And you know what I mean? It's, oh, yeah, I don't know what I'm trying to say now, or I don't think I'm saying it in a very clear way. But you know, I think, yeah, I think I wish Chad was back on here, but I want to sort of pull back into the participating and choosing to participate in life, for example, in life-giving things, in things that will improve the quality of your life or the quality of your experience of life, even if you're going through a tough time, because that's possible too.
Saying it right. You're not saying it wrong in any way that I'm hearing at all. It sounds right, and it's worth saying, multiple times. That going, you don't know unless you go, sort of deal.
Are you comfortable enough to share an example of somewhere you're trying to begin again?
I'm going to try to take a class.
Okay.
It'll cost some money, but, can't really get very far without breaking a few eggs or a few thousand. So,
What's the
doing
investment?
that. Huh?
What's
Estimate?
this class? What's the investment?
What's the class?
Yeah.
It's a film class.
Okay. What are you hoping to get out of that?
Well, I'll try not to dream too big, but try to make at least maybe make a trade out of it if possible.
Okay, so
And if
you want a
not, if
skill.
I don't, I'll have learned something that's definitely going to look good for me at least. And that might be useful. I don't know. It's just
That sounds great.
yeah.
I mean, you want to do this, it's part of your dream, and you'll learn something anyway that will definitely be useful to you moving forward from that. And, I don't really have a doubt right now in my mind that you won't actually produce something pretty incredible. And I'm excited for you. I don't where is this class? How can I enroll? That sounds amazing. And the fact that it's something that you want to learn and that is in your dream, pursue that. That's going to be amazing.
Well, it's not in one place because they have a network of people that they use to basically, do a kind of, they call it externship, which is like a stupid word that they just kind of made up for like internship, but not really, So it's basically like kind of like an apprenticeship sort of deal.
Yeah.
I don't know. Whatever it is, they have a network of people that are just around the country. So it's not in one place. It's like all around the place.
Yeah, that doesn't matter.
Well, yeah. So that's interesting because it's like, oh, there's one person who's 10 minutes away from me. That's convenient. If they have that, why not try it?
No, that's good. And it's a lot of this is, wrapped up around misconceptions. So one of the things that people don't realize is that almost nobody works in the field they got their degree in. Almost nobody. You get a degree in something, that's almost certainly, odds are you won't work in whatever you have a degree in. No matter what your degree's in. Most people never work in the thing they have a degree in. And even if they have 3 degrees, most people never use any of those degrees and things. So the fact that you're going to school to do something doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to end up doing that thing, but it does mean that you're going to learn something from it. And if it's your dream, you'll follow it with or without the school. And I think, I did want to sort of address this and because Gartham here has some good stuff. Anxious people look for perfection. No, people are anxious because they're stuck in perfection. It's the other way around. Unless you go to trade school. Yeah, trade school is the exception, right? But that's the point, is that because trade schools are very much based on apprenticeship models. All trade schools are based on apprenticeship models. You actually do the thing, right? When you go to get a degree in something, that's not an apprenticeship model. And this is the thing that I've been tweeting out about a lot that's got a lot of Twitter attention. Actually got me over 500 subscribers on Twitter, is this age of gnosis, where we think a degree or this knowledge or having taken this course or something, not trade school courses, because again, they're participatory, but having gotten this participatory knowledge is somehow raising you up status-wise in the hierarchy, putting you at a certain place, when in fact the opposite is true. Right. If you want to make a lot of money, if you want to be happy and participate in the world, trade school is the way to go, not college. And it's always been that way. And the fact that we're sending more people to college in the U.S. is just terrible for the U.S. And I think that's part of why we're at where we're at.
Yeah, just wrapping up this thought here. Yeah, if you want some friendly advice, Alex, and I'm just going to give it to you anyway, learn to edit.
Was it not friendly before?
No, I'm just saying this is actually quite pointed. Which is that if you cinema is the art of editing. So learn to edit your thoughts and learn to edit what's on the screen, and that's the skill.
That's really good, Jesse. Yeah, editing.
That's one part of that's one part of it. That's one part of it at least.
We got find money in there.
It's a big part, maybe
Everything
even
else
half,
is supplementary to
or
that
80%.
well, one skill, which is editing, which is not just the physical computer thing, but also editing this.
Yeah, because editing is all about figuring out framing and context and grounding and things like that. And yeah, you like I've often said the superpower. If you want a superpower, if you want one superpower in life, take notes. Learn to take notes. Learn to take notes that work for you. Right? There's no generic like, oh, master note taking class. Right? Learn to take notes that work for you, and that will make you better than 90% of everybody doing whatever you're trying to do. And it'll make you a better person automatically, just taking notes. You know, and that one skill alone will up your game in so many ways in your life. It's ridiculous, because taking notes is about editing to some extent, and it allows you to see editing, right? It allows you to see ways in which you, again, right? Why do we do anything? I don't know. You got to take notes to find out.
Well, good talk. I think I'm gonna dip out. So I'll see you later.
Great to see you, Alex. Thanks for coming.
Mm-hmm.
It's great to hear your dreams. Bye. Oh, okay.
Yeah, sometimes
But note taking, I totally believe in that. I always have to have like 2 pens on me and 2 notebooks. One's a small one and one's a slightly bigger one. And they both can fit into my handbag wherever I go. And if somebody else needs a pen and a notepad, I'm like ready to give as well. I totally believe in that. It's so great. And it assists with, hey?
Voice notes are great as well.
Jason?
Voice notes.
Yeah, that's true. It is. And yeah, you get something more out of it than you would think. And it's almost like sometimes you're taking notes and you discovered something that it's like, oh, well, if I didn't do that, I would never have seen that. It's really beneficial.
Yeah, women like to journal. That's all I heard.
I'm going to show you my notebooks. It's not. No, it looks nothing like a journal.
Yeah, Joey wants more adversarial advice, but that's what Joey's like. Bubbleviz says the Netflix One Piece live action series was great. I don't know. I don't have Netflix. Let's see. Garth, editing is how people dominate the internet. Well, editing is how people behave, always. Whether or not it works, because editing dominating the internet doesn't work. I'm glad they're doing it, because they're just revealing their evil in some cases, or their goodness, because some people edit for the good. Unless you're PVK, yeah. Well, PVK doesn't know how to edit, because it's really Paul Vander Squirrel, as covered earlier in the monologue. Ironic that you'd bring it up again, because I'm fairly sure Garth monologue. Fair enough. No requirement to listen to the monologue, no pressure, but just saying, I brought that up. You brought that up. That's funny. The whole of this, make something like that, Alex. Yeah, well, make something. All right. Be generative. We had a live stream on generative once too. It's very helpful to, maybe I didn't go into it far enough, although I haven't had any negative comments on that live stream either. So maybe I hit it out of the park. Maybe I didn't. Can't tell with no feedback. Make something generative, and that'll be better automatically, because you'll learn something from it.
If anyone wants some advice on things, I would highly recommend this. It's a great, not only to get you writing and to get you to make a map, but also teaches you a great practice called Pages, which is free associated writing. That'll get you thinking.
Your video's frozen for me, Jesse. What the hell did you do?
Really?
Oh yeah, it's been frozen for a while.
Oh.
It just didn't seem relevant until there you go. Now you're live. You're fuzzy.
Here we go.
But you're live.
It's called The Artist's Way. Julia Cameron. Highly recommend.
Awesome.
If you have not.
Thank
Dahlia
you. I'm going to
recommends.
note that down.
That's I've got 3 copies of it, so I regularly, when I go to bookshops, I find it. Yeah, I find it's sort of book that people either start, book that people quit on, or some people cherish. And so what I end up doing is when I do my used book trolling around, is my sort of hobby. I often find copies of it, and then I keep those copies, and then I give them to people because I know at least they can
great.
start or try. Yeah. So I've got 3 copies, I think.
I love that. I used to do that with certain books when I was younger as well. Have you read Art and Fear by David Bales?
No, should I? Okay.
You should check that out. Great book.
Yeah, but the great thing about The Artist's Way is that it's open enough for it not to be about the creative practice. It's actually just a course in reorientation, ultimately in recovery. So you could just do it just to figure out, hey, I want to learn how to be a scuba diver. So let's go do that. I've always had this dream for years, and I've always, maybe I've had 10 things I always thought I was going to do in my life, and then it took me to reassess now and remap and find out those things I quit on, write them all down, and then go, oh, maybe I could do that now in this stage of my life, and go and try it, and maybe that'll afford you, or afford some benefit in the world. I'm trying to edit my thoughts.
Thank you so much. I'm definitely going to do that. But I'm gonna say bye now. I'm gonna drop off. But you guys are awesome. And yeah, you too. Ciao.
It was good to see you. Thank you for showing up. Everyone's leaving early. Everyone's complaining about everybody else leaving early, and then they're leaving early. Alex, there's no reason to apologize for cutting off a bit early. That's fine. This is not like a stream with rules here in that way. I will note that Joey is obviously a medieval who thinks about Rome. Part of today's theme. Note taking is a modern technology, he says. I prefer committing important information to rhyming poetry epics. So he's very medieval. That's the way it should be done. Everything should be memorized through oral tradition, much like they did in Rome, which we think about every day as men. Because man, that freaking meme, that's better than birds aren't real. I'm so in on this. It's fantastic.
Wait, birds aren't real?
Well, the birds aren't real thing. So this guy actually got a megaphone and went outside. I think it was FBI headquarters or something, and said, "Birds aren't real. We know birds are FBI spy devices." Something. He just starts screaming that in the megaphone, and you can't fool us. We know birds are. It was like he actually did it, right? It was completely freaking hysterical. So for a while, I've been just like, I just harass Sally Joe all day. That's basically my life. So I would tell her, like, dishes aren't real, Sally. Work isn't real. It's a trick. You're in the Matrix. Don't. Yeah. I don't. She just ignores me, which fair enough. But this whole like men think of Rome at least once a day thing. That was, and then Richard Rowland and well, if you count Constantinople, then it's more than once a day or something like that. I was like, that's next level. That's just, it's too much. I couldn't. And apparently people are getting into arguments with their wives about it and stuff. And it's like becoming a big thing, even though it all started on TikTok.
Of course it did.
There's
actually that. Have you seen the movie Three Amigos?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I just remembered. There's this. It's a great movie. It's up there with The Matrix in terms of what it's actually showing you, or it's what the subtext is. But the subtext is that there's 3 stooges or 3 actors that are completely out of it, and then they think they're filming a Western, and so they think all the camera crews are in the distance. So what's my line? I don't know what my line is, so let's just perform and go on this journey. And they start telling the story. And then very soon they realize they're actually in Mexico, and these are actually Mexican drug lords or gangsters. And I think it's that halfway through they turn to Steve Martin turns to the rest of the crew and says, oh, it's real. They're really shooting us, and they've run off. But there's that's always stuck with me, that line. It's real. This is happening. This is not all fake, and yeah, it's not all just a Truman show of events. It's real. These are the words you're hearing from me right now out of my face hole. For fake
Right.
USA.
Well, and that is the point of something like the meaning crisis. I've been listening to Vervaeke did an interview with Theo Vaughn, and I've actually rather enjoyed it. So I'm only a third of the way through, but I've rather enjoyed it. I got to listen to him with Lantern Jack, because they did another one.
Oh,
But it's been really good, because I don't know that they're there yet. These guys are a little on the slow side, if you ask me, but it's very much about not knowing the real. And Vervaeke does talk about that, right? Because he gets into ridiculousness. He says, "Though you want the really real." I'm like, good, John. Define the thing by using the word twice. That's fantastic. You do want that, right? You want an interface with something that you can be more certain of, and it's that certainty, right? But you're not even certain why you do things, right? Which is, again, the theme, and that's what you have to kind of figure out. Is, where's the boundary of the real? But if you don't know, and I learned this from Joey, who learned it from a commenter, right, on a video, on one of the videos that we did ages ago with PVK. People don't know where they begin and end, right? And that's very much the theme of the Matrix, right? So if you don't know where you end and other things begin, where the hell's reality? That's going to be a big problem for you, right? That now reality becomes a problem. Now reality is not a problem for me, because like I kind of know my limitations, and I sort of figured that out a long time ago. Otherwise, I'd be dead. So it's not hard. You live in your car. You don't figure out reality. You're not going to be living in your car long. So you're also not going to be living anywhere else long. It's one way to resolve it. Not recommended. Still not recommended. But also,
welcome to the desert of the real.
Welcome to the desert of the real. Yeah, well said. Well said. Yeah, we have to do that video at some point, Jesse. We'll have to put some
I picked up
time,
so many
energy, and
things last
attention
night,
into
but I'm
that
not gonna-
project.
I know. I got yeah. We'll do a live stream watch through, maybe offline if some people want to attend, and they can just listen to us monologue and take notes. But yeah, I a few things, and it was on 35mm film last night, so all the color cone correction hadn't happened, so everything's all slightly too dark or slightly too bright, or too green or too blue in a scene. Mwah! Perfect. I love it. Or scratchy or things, or the sound didn't work so well at the start, so it there was none of that like intro music that it was like the first 2 minutes. No, yeah, about a minute and a half of no music, so it just started right with it entering into the into the room with Trinity there. It was a completely different frame to the movie now. Like because you don't have like them dialoguing at the start of the movie, you just have his police officers running in. Like it just that alone, I was like, I gotta try this more often. Just have the first couple of minutes of the film, just make it silent. And then you rewatch it because you're rewatching it from a different tone or different perspective. So, that alone was a gift. Or happier.
Well, now have you, Jesse? Have you watched Bound yet?
Oh, that's their first one about two girls as gangsters. Yeah,
you got it. You got to watch Bound.
Okay.
If you haven't seen Bound,
I found a copy of it. I'll find a copy.
Wow, Bound is like. Wow, the Matrix makes much more sense all of a sudden. And I was just blown away by Bound. Well, you'll recognize some of the scenes, that's for sure. Yeah. Well, Dally says you're dropping golden nuggets. I don't know if that's good or bad, but it sounds good.
Is that the same Dali?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, here's a golden nugget on the Matrix. Trinity is the first person to kill an agent. Not Neo.
What? Oh, yes.
Trinity's...
Yes.
Trinity's
yes.
That completely.
Okay.
Once you notice that
I did zoom through the
film.
movie. Yeah. So I went on a quest, kind of.
Spoil this, Mark.
I went on a quest for the loss of the divine feminine, which my good friend Michelle on Discord has been hammering us about. No, you guys aren't getting it right. It's loss of the divine feminine, right? Not in those terms, but we struggled with it. You know, for going on 4 years now, I've been struggling with that particular framing, and you know, people are like, oh, you know, this and that, right? So I started watching stuff like Stargate SG-1, which, you know, I'd seen pieces of. Now I'm watching the whole thing, and I'm like, holy mackerel. Buffy the Vampire, holy, like that I think is where it really
that's the 90s.
Feminine big time, right? Because what you're doing, right? Women have a choice, right? To some extent. I mean, not really. They shouldn't, right? They can be precious or powerful. And they're choosing not to be precious, which leaves them powerful, and powerful in the frame of men, right? And Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Stargate SG-1, although in Stargate, it's really underneath. Like the main guy with the main gun who runs everything, the guy in charge, he's the idiot. So there's the age of gnosis. The smart person is the woman.
Yeah.
Right. It's everywhere, and it's all underground. And I'm like, oh man, this is sneaky, and it's everywhere. And I never noticed it when it was happening. I don't watch a lot of popular stuff anyway, but like, wow, you got to dig to find it. But once you find it, it's like, wow, this has been going on for a long time.
Yeah, you usually see that with a lot of trends too, like even revivals of different fashion. It usually starts in a small microcosm and then kind of self-replicates into something slightly new. But yeah, definitely since the 90s up until, let's say 2016, there was definitely a thread of females being essentially a different type of nun, a different type of devotion. It's a devotion to the warrior class. Let's just say it like that and leave it there. Otherwise, we're going to spoil more things of the Matrix. Eventual talk. But yeah, it's
Joey, Hollywood's quest to humanize women, big mistake. Well, I would change the word humanize, but masculinize maybe. But
that's unfortunately.
Also, Joey the troll. So yeah, it's excellently trolled. I mean, I think that's part of the problem when you don't notice that stress between masculine, powerful, and precious. When you don't know, and where does I had this theory, man. I wish I could get it back. I had this theory like 12 years ago that explained the gay phenomena, you know, just for men in particular, like what that was all about. And it was this, well, we've lost femininity in the world, and so they're taking up that role. And it was a beautiful, beautiful thesis. I can't remember it anymore. Maybe it'll come back to me someday. I'm sure I didn't write it down, which is really unfortunate because usually I do write these things down.
I would say it's the other way around. I would say we lost the masculine. So,
no, we're over masculinized. It's just everything masculine, so that you don't have contrast to see. So when all you have is masculine, the masculine vanishes. Like fair enough, but that's all we have. Women are kicking the asses of men that are huge, right? This is Critical Drinkers. Big thing. Like stop letting 100-pound women take on 260-pound men and win. That's and not get hurt. Like that's ridiculously ridiculous, right?
It's like the Rambo motif just taken to the extreme. In Rambo 3, where it's just Rambo taking on the entire Afghanistan army. It's like, this is not happening, guys.
Well, and it works fine, for men, right? And it works fine as an absurdity. But when it's all media all the time, it's not an absurdity anymore. And now you lose contrast and you can't see. And now the masculine disappears because there's only the masculine. So if there's only the masculine, you can't see it. Fair enough. Like, but what vanished was the contrast, which was the divine feminine, which is underneath. It's it's the subtlety, it's the pointing, it's all of those things. And that's the important symbolism that we've lost. And when you lose that, you lose sight. You literally lose the ability to see. It's not even eyes to see. It's like you can have all the eyes you want, but the contrast is gone. Okay, you can't rely on you and your eyes to see. Because if the world doesn't have contrast, your eyes to see aren't going to help you, right?
Yeah, maybe I would push back a bit and say something to the effect that in our overemphasizing of the masculine, we've not seen a healthy version or a fixated version or a version that's grounded in reality. So therefore, we don't even see the appropriate type of the masculine because everything's kind of flat world. So yeah,
right.
Like I was watching a Clint Eastwood movie the other day. It's called Eager Sanction, and there's some things in that movie. But everyone's wearing suits still. It's the 1970s. Everyone's still. You can notice there's a definite shift in the mid 80s where this sort of flat world mentality or sort of cutification starts to begin, and that's that actually relates to the topic in some senses. Why we do anything? Well, if you're just motivated by the belief or the desire to self-express rather than to develop character, then of course everything's going to be flattened down. Now, of course, it's okay to wear sneakers every day, all the time.
Right.
For example.
Well, that's all evidence of the flattening of the world. Joey, the original warrior woman in Greek mythology started off as a headache in Zeus's head. Yes. Yes. And we keep denigrating mythology or, calling it mythology as though it's a bad thing or something, right? And then there's that deep fight. Maybe I'll do a video on this, right? Between the more precise the story, the less accurate it becomes in the future. In other words, the more precisely and accurately you describe something, the less likely it is to ever have happened, right? And the more likely it is that it cannot happen in the future, right? Which is why mythology, which is an abstraction, right? It's metaphorical, right? Is so useful because it can be applied in the future as well as in the past. So you can look back on the past and say, well, something close to this happened. And then you can say, that means something close to that is going to happen again. You can't do that if you start nailing down, well, you just nail down who, right? Hitler is not going to be resurrected from the dead, called Hitler, follow the same pattern with the same name and do the same thing. But that pattern is going to manifest. And then you can say, oh, well, we'll see it when it comes and we'll call it Hitler. It's like, no, you won't, because you're too stuck on Hitler and on the way he did it, which is very specific to him and to the set of circumstances that may never repeat, or they may repeat, but they may never repeat, right? It may not be eugenics that somebody uses to gas some group of people again. I don't know. But I wouldn't assume it's going to be eugenics. It might be. Fair enough. Sure, there's a lot of eugenics talk out there now, for example, but it might be something totally different, right? It might be, oh, you know what? We have to get rid of these people because they think a certain way. That's not eugenics. But that might be the next Hitler move or Hitler-like move. But when we're stuck on Hitler or we're stuck on the method of Hitler, right? Because we're like, oh, we've seen this pattern before. We know exactly what it looks like. It's World War II. It's like, World War II is not the pattern. The pattern's way older than that, right? That pattern's repeated many, many times, right? And so if you don't recognize that, you're in trouble. And the way the pattern emerges in that particular case, and this is one thing that I think Vervaeke only said it once, to the best of my knowledge, although I don't watch everything he does. He said, like, the scientific frame, the modernist kind of frame, right? That this science thing, secularism, has caused a lot of deaths too. Yeah, that's the story of the 20th century. Is modern. It's like World War I is what people are talking about as modernism. I call it materialism, right? That's what it is. It's the full manifestation of the use of material to move the world, like actual physical objects moving. We're going to change the lines on the map. You can't do that. You can't merge cultures by firing bombs. Like, it doesn't work. I'm not saying it doesn't have an impact. I'm not saying that impact isn't bad. I'm not saying it doesn't change things. It's just not going to change the things you want in the way you want. So it's going to shake things up. And you see that pattern. Like, a lot of countries got involved in World War I, not because of treaties, not because of contracts, not because of loyalty or part of empire. A lot of them got involved explicitly because they said, you know what? Those old empires are breaking up. And if we get involved in the war, we might get a piece of whatever's left. They didn't have a telos going in. They didn't say like, oh, we're going to divide it up this way. I mean, in some cases they did, but a lot of the countries that got involved didn't have that. They just said, there's going to be opportunity on this side of this chaos. So we're going to jump in on the chaos. Oh, fair enough. Like, I mean, I disagree fundamentally because I'm still like war bad, but war also inevitable. So, you know, like you got to balance those two things.
And there's different
right,
types of war too.
Right. Well, there's different types of war. Right. That conflict is constantly going on. And, you know, it's sort of ironic to me that, you know, these people, I've been talking about this obviously this week, right? These people go and they get baptized. Well, you're getting baptized into spiritual warfare, guys. And then they're anti-war. And I'm like, are you sure? If you're baptized, you're not anti-war. I hate to tell you. You've got an internal conflict you need to resolve for yourself, but you're not anti-war.
Yeah.
Sorry. That ship sailed. Like that barn door was left open. Cat's out of the bag. It's too late. And it's spiritual warfare.
Fair enough. You can
not
be a zombie.
Spiritual run and hide fair, right?
You can't be a zombie. Like, maybe you shouldn't be. You can be a zombie Muppet, but do you want to be that? Like, yeah. The best frame I've heard about the materialism of the late 18th and early 19th century was that it was a heresy against the good, or heresy against the real. So.
Well, against the good, I like. Against the real is hard. But yeah, reality is hard.
That was my thought. I think it's just, yeah.
Yeah, reality's hard, right? You have to define reality, and absolutely nobody does. And like, fair enough, like reality. Nobody likes what reality is, and so they're not going to define it, right? Because the actual definition of reality, that the only one that actually, and I'm not being hyperbolic, the only one that can actually work, is horrifying to people. And Peterson touches on it, right? Yes. What if everything you do matters? Now, what if that's the case?
Yeah, you should act. You should act as if that is true, and that's
you should.
And maybe I was a little bit too harsh on Mr. Alex, but I thought it's just, and I did do it. I do believe my intentions were at least honest and good and friendly. But it's now. This is now. This is now. This is happening. Like, if you want a D-Day, it's just a time and a place on a map, and not all the events of D-Day are the ones that we think of D-Day. As I was trying to point out, like D-Day
and D-Day, but D-Day is your choice.
Yes,
you're the one that chooses D-Day. Like, you have to storm the beach. The beach doesn't storm you. And the deep problem, the thing that really everyone's struggling with, is the compression of time.
Yes.
The past is fundamentally different from the present or the now, which is fundamentally different from the future. They have different qualities. The quality of the past is the quality of certainty, where precision and accuracy is possible, but only within a limited frame. And yes, you can change frame and get a different precision and accuracy, either a different layer or a different precision and accuracy on a different thing, right? But that frame means fundamentally your view of the past changes. And if you want to see that in action, you can watch any of my talks with Adam. Adam and I reframe a bunch of history in a way that most people are like, wow, right? Like, because it is wow. And look, some of that stuff is stuff I've thought about ahead of time and already had in my head, but most of it is Adam feeding me information and me going looking for patterns, because I navigate patterns. See a theme on the channel? I navigate the patterns in real time and go, oh, well, that's this, and this pattern, right? And so you should look at this history this way. So a good half of those streams is that in real time. I do that in real time. Not all of it, not claiming that some of that isn't stuff I've already understood, right? And a lot of it's new. Like, man, I just had no clue as much U.S. history as I knew. I had no clue. And I knew. I'm like, man, there's all this U.S. history makes North and South makes no sense. None. The difference between North, South, the Midwest, and the left coast, or the evil coast, whatever you want to call it, it's just not understandable until you read American Nations by Colin Woodard. And then it's like, whoa. Like, wow, a whole bunch of things just drop into place. It's like, oh, well, there's a bunch of framing that I didn't have, or things that I didn't know, right? That all of a sudden allow for frames that I couldn't have had before, and now differences appear that weren't. Public versus private Protestantism is just it's a total mind job. It just explains everything. It explains prohibition, right? It explains the Civil War. It explains a bunch of stuff. It explains all the animosity, right? And then all the things that happened as the result of those two things. Explains the current day, being a carpetbagger Yankee down south, which I'm technically not, because again, my family's from, roughly speaking, my family's from either Ireland or largely Ireland and French Canada, mostly French Canada, right? So we're not actually Puritans, but we were living in the North, so all that stuff starts to make sense. But that's a way of reframing. But in the present, you don't have that, because the present is a bunch of decisions you make looking into the future from the past, and so it's fundamentally different from the accurate and precision and the choice of framing that you have on the past. And then that is fundamentally different from the future, because you can't have any accuracy or precision about the future. It's not possible.
You actually, yeah, I was gonna maybe try to rephrase this, and you're just touching on it, but maybe it'll make more sense when I insert this word motivations. And I was gonna prompt you to say, what do you think you can do to, how can you try to map or make sense of others or places in event and times with motivations, and what's some good tools for that? Which you just did, but maybe it'll be better to go at that sort of topic as we come to a close. Again, like, what are the different motivations going on, and so why do anything?
Right.
Yeah, you have to, in order to know your own motivations, you have to stop and assess and look at what you've gone. We'll look at what you're doing. What do you have evidence of, and what is the thing you're trying to achieve? But yeah, so that's some of my preliminary thoughts. But how do you think you can understand, at least, or begin to understand the motivations of others?
Right. Well, and this is the other deep problem that we have, that I hint at all the time, or maybe hopefully don't hint at too much, but actually state outright. Right. We talked about this with discernment, judgment, action. Discernment, judgment, action work in that order for you, and only you, because you're the only one that has access to it in that order. For everyone else, you see their action, you infer their judgment and their discernment. And so there's fundamentally a limit, even in the now and even in the past, as to what you can understand about motivation or desire. And so you have to start making a bunch of assumptions, right? And that's why this stream actually goes with that stream and that video on navigating patterns on discernment, judgment, action, right? Which is, you have to have a way of stating, did the person intend the outcome in the way that the outcome happened? Because those are two different things. The world is really complex, right? People keep reducing it. Two different things. Sometimes I can implement my intention, and sometimes I can't implement my intention. Or sometimes I could implement my intention, but for something happens, right? Like, I come on a stream, I intend to talk about something, and I can't quite get the point across. Like, that happens all the time, right? And so you have to be able to find a way to come up with a comfort in the uncertainty, that there's just a limit to how much of that you can understand, right? And how much of that matters, right? Because as a pragmatist, I don't actually care what you intend, because to me, I can never know your intentions. It's not possible. It's also not relevant. I know what you did, right? And your intention came long before your action. So, but not to me. To me, the first thing that's visible to me is your action. The first thing that's visible to me about my behavior is my intent. Hopefully, sometimes not. Again, why do we do things? I don't know. What did I intend? I don't know. What did I intend with the YouTube channel? To some extent, I had a bunch of intentions, and some of them actually manifested in ways I could never have expected. And some of them haven't manifested, right? But that's part of the key. Is it's a good freaking question. Did did my intent manifest correctly? Is it, did I intend to traumatize people by allowing them in on StreamYard? Like, like to some extent, yes, right? Because I think it's good for them to some extent if done properly. And we try to do that here for sure.
Yeah, that's important. I don't have anything else to add to that. That was really good. I'm gonna re-listen to that. Yeah, just to reiterate, you see other people's actions, you discern their judgments, and then you find their motive. You'll be able to detect their motivation.
Well, I think you infer everything else. You have to.
Yeah.
You have to infer everything.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
And the judgment is the first order inference, right? And the discernment, right, or the intent, either way, is a second order inference. Yeah. So when you get down to abstractions of first and second orders, you got to understand your precision and accuracy goes away. Like it just diminishes and diminishes and diminishes. And that's what we don't appreciate. It's like, yeah, it may seem like they took an action, and so you can know everything about why that action and whether or not, right? And that's the lizard people problem. If you think the people in the White House in the US right now are competent, that they do the things they intend, right? And that they are implementing that intent perfectly, right? And that their intention is even known to them, then they're definitely lizard people. There's no question about it. Like there's no better frame. It's wrong because those things are wrong. Like they aren't necessarily competent. They aren't even necessarily good politicians, we'll say, right? They aren't necessarily intending the things that happen, and the things that they are intending don't happen more often than not. So
yeah, leadership is a maybe a possible topic for us to cover here, because it's important to know if you're following a good leader, especially in strange times that we're in today, because you can very easily become a part of the audience capture or be captured by a leader taking you to places where you don't want to go.
You will. No, you will.
Yes. Well, yeah.
You will.
Yeah,
and,
exactly.
And this goes back to what we were talking about earlier. And the thing that spawned it was a weird random event, by the way, this week, but that I'm not going to talk about on this stream. But look, when leadership is weak or lost, cabals form, secret societies, right? Those things all come to bear because things are going to happen in the world at a layer above the individual, right? Or above the person or above you. And that ability for people to do things and capability and inevitability means that conspiracies are going to emerge, but they're driven by spirits, largely. And yeah, we will be talking more about leadership. I do have a video on leadership and tyranny on navigating patterns, of course, but yeah, we will be talking more about that for sure. And more about the age of gnosis. And I did start my Substack. I'm going to put age of gnosis, wisdom, and intimacy crisis stuff on my Substack. I'm just kind of working all that out in my head, and now I have to write. And yeah, like I didn't have enough stuff I was slacking on. I can add more stuff to slack on. It'd be great.
Yeah, that's the same here. I was working on a completely different music project or completely different artistic project, and I don't know, I just woke up one week and was like, you're on the wrong track, man. You need to go back to this. Wow. You need to go back to this type of music that you were making, or this artwork that you left behind. And I was listening to it this week, and it was very therapeutic to me because I realized that I'd quit on something, and I quit on all these beautiful songs, and I almost broke down in some sense because, like, why did I quit here? Like, what was? And that's what prompted my tweet. It's like, you often you probably realize you're quitting on more things than you realize that you're. I want to use the word breakthrough, but it's a great word. You're probably close enough to some level of achievement, attainment, outcome, goal. Gratification maybe is great, and then once you have that gratification, it can't be lost. But until it's grounded in something,
Right.
it's very easy to become bitter
Right.
about that which you've lost, rather than going, oh, okay, at least I got to the final outcome, and now I have the evidence to be grateful that I at least went through the experience, or it made me better, or it is a good achievement. So that's
Right.
pretty important too.
Well, and that's a double-edged sword, because once you do it, you can't climb that mountain again. You can't get that thrill again. And so that's often why we quit. We're like, oh, once I do this, it'll be done. And then I have nothing to strive for. Like, Vervaeke talks about that too. Like, there's a danger. It's always a double-edged sword. And yeah, I mean, that's to the point of why do we do anything? That's the whole thing. And yeah, I mean, what do you got for closing statements, Jesse? I think we're almost at the 3-hour mark here. So
Yeah.
how do you want to close it out?
There was a thread here that we never picked up, and that was fine. But the importance of humility is probably somewhere to land on. If your experiences don't humble you, then you're considering the wrong things.
Ooh. Oh, wow. Golden nugget indeed. That's good. Yeah. If experience isn't humbling you, there's something wrong there for sure. Yeah, that's deep. Yeah.
Painful.
Well, I always skirt the humility thing. It's a hard sell. It's a hard sell. So I always skirt that. I try to mention it, and I do the duck and dodge. Just throw that out there and then move on. Yeah. Well, there's there's a lot of deliberation or deliberateness that goes in, right? Not as much as it may seem, but there's definitely things, like I state this outright, right? I'm totally frightened to talk about intimacy crisis without a female present of a certain type, like not just any woman, right? Right? Because that's another one of those third rails for me, for various good reasons. And yeah, I mean, that's, and for me to sort of round it out and close out the stream is, why do we do anything? And if we don't understand our why, and our why is never similar to the whys that we put on others, there's a problem there, because you're probably on the why side, you're a lot more like other people than you are in any other way. Those patterns that we play out, like if you think you do not have a religion, one will be provided to you without your knowledge or consent. Yeah, we're all going to fall into the pattern of religion. Another great video on navigating patterns. We're all going to fall into those patterns. And not just some number of them, but like those patterns, almost all of them are inevitable in terms of how you behave. You always have a highest value. You always have a thing that protects that highest value, which is a church. Like I have a video on what is a church, right? Those things, you're not getting away from those things. And so if you don't understand that, and you're looking out in the world going, well, I know why that person did that, and you don't know why you did whatever you did last week, or yesterday, or 10 minutes ago, maybe you're lacking some humility there, right? Maybe you need to think more carefully about the whys of the world, including your own. And the hardest thing for us to do. And look, there's a lot of pressure. Everyone's telling you can self-transcend and you can look at yourself and I don't think so. And I think that even if you can, it's probably way more work for the same result without doing that work. Like, I think if you just talk to people and you're more humble and open to their advice, that you'll make a lot more progress on yourself than you will by sitting meditating by yourself, or doing private practices, or even practicing in a group, but not in a group practice, which are two different things, which is one of those things that annoys me about Vervaeke. I think that's the problem. Like, you are not going to see your whys. Your limitation and your strength are the same thing at some level. Your uniqueness is wonderful, but it gives you a bunch of blind spots that you cannot ever see. It's not even an option. It's not like, oh, if I do this, I'll see. No, that's not going to happen. Unknown unknowns are real, and some of them are not optional, and some number of them are definitely not optional. And those are two different sets, right? And this is hard stuff. And that's why we need other people. That's why we need distributed cognition. That's why we need good mirrors. AI is a bad mirror. It's a Frankenstein funhouse mirror. We need good mirrors of ourselves. And no mirrors are perfect. And, even the person that, say, loves you the most is not going to give you a perfect image of yourself or a perfect image of all your bad things or whatever, because they have flaws too. But you know what? It's a better bet than trying to do it all by yourself.
That was beautiful.
Thank you.
Some great
I hope
stuff
so.
today. Some great stuff.
Good.
Today. Interesting.
I'm glad to hear
Very
that.
Interesting. Yeah. That's good.
Well, I hope
right.
everybody finds this helpful. And yeah, I think we'll end it there. Thank you all for engaging. We're almost certainly going to do this again next week. We'll figure out a topic. Unless you have anything, Jesse, off the top of your head, or
No, I do want to. I'll just say to Mr. Benjamin Franklin, I will look in. I think we should try leadership next week, or something akin to that. If we keep talking about the broader category of orientation.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Maybe.
Well, orientation and framing. Yeah.
Often we're like, yeah, this sounds great. We'll do this, and then something comes like, I know this is gonna. Yeah.
There's a list, actually. There's a whole document with a list. And yeah, sometimes you skip over things and things come up, and it's very in the spirit. So yeah, it's not. Some things are planned and some things are not. And yeah. And some things that are planned strangely work out in ways that cannot actually happen. So I don't know how they happen, but they do. It's good to know there's mystery in the world still, right? Miracles abound. Thank goodness.
Yes.
Otherwise the world would be boring. So yeah, thank you, everybody. It's a miracle that everybody's still here and that I have 1,000 subscribers and I'm in the top 10% of YouTubers. That's wonderful. And I really appreciate that. And yeah, I'm going to get monetized on Twitter soon. It's an amazing time. And we'll get the storefronts up, and I got to focus on the website this coming week. Otherwise it'll never get done. But thank you. We're going to end the broadcast. We're going to see you next week. Hopefully I got videos coming out so you don't have to wait for live streams. Hopefully that'll be good. And have a lovely week. See ya.